In her past life, when Tang Wan died, Song Jichuan was still accompanying Luo Susu on an Antarctic expedition, news of the high-ranking official humbling himself for love, devotedly protecting the beautiful scientist for decades, flooded the internet. Netizens buzzed about how witnessing Secretary Song's devotion to Professor Luo restored their faith in love, unaware that this love-struck official still had an abandoned wife at home. When Tang Wan confronted Song Jichuan about the news, his only response was, "Don't make a scene." In her final moments, Tang Wan felt an unprecedented lightness. She was finally free. If there was a next life, she vowed never to love Song Jichuan again. Xiao Tang, snap out of it. Did you hear what I just said? Tang Wan's attention was abruptly pulled back, staring at the uniformed Sister Lin before her. She couldn't process, when had Sister Lin become so young? The marriage registrar Sister Lin sighed at Tang Wan still standing there dazed, and repeated what she'd just told her. Xiao Tang, marriage takes two, though Captain Song has already signed. You both need to come in person for the marriage certificate. Why don't you go discuss with Captain Song and schedule a time to come together? 2. Captain Song. Didn't Song Jichuan retire from the military and enter politics long ago? How could he still hold the rank of captain? Tang Wan's consciousness snapped back as she caught her reflection in the office window. Wasn't that her younger self staring back? Had she actually been reborn? The sheer impossibility of rebirth left Tang Wan no time for further conversation with Sister Lin. She snatched back the marriage application she'd brought, muttered, "I'll discuss this at home," and hurried away. The memory surfaced. This was her past life, when she'd come alone to submit the marriage papers. Back then, Sister Lin had urged her to properly consult Song Jichuan, but she'd stubbornly demanded the application be processed. It had escalated to Song's superiors before their marriage was officially recognized. Vowing never to be entangled with Song Jichuan again in this lifetime, Tang Wan swiftly withdrew their marriage application upon realizing her rebirth and returned to his residence. The state-assigned apartment was already decked out with crimson wedding quilts and festive paper cuts, leaving no doubt to visitors that newlyweds were about to move in. The only person who ever believed that was Song Jichuan, until Tang Wan herself joined the delusion. When Tang Wan arrived home, Song Jichuan was still out. She waited calmly, knowing he'd return in half an hour with his junior colleague, the prodigious scientist Luo Susu, to commence their ill-fated ménage à trois, having resolved to sever ties with Song Jichuan for good. Tang Wan immediately packed her belongings into the storage room upon returning home. She carefully tucked away her identification documents and the last 60 yuan in her pocket, the foundation of her future independence. After completing these tasks, Tang Wan retrieved the marriage application bearing both her and Song Jichuan's names from the folder. She walked to the kitchen, turned on the gas stove, and watched as the flames slowly consumed the document. "What are you doing?" Song Jichuan asked upon returning home. Not finding Tang Wan in their usual living room spot, he entered the kitchen to see her staring blankly at the stove. A flicker of unease crossed his mind, but he quickly dismissed it. Seeing Song Jichuan's return, Tang Wan subtly blocked his line of sight with her body. She turned off the burner, wiped the ashes from the stovetop into the trash with a cloth, then finally turned to face him. "Nothing much, just thinking about what to do tonight." "Well then, come out for a moment. I want to introduce someone to you." Tang Wan followed Song Jichuan into the living room, where they saw Luo Susu in Western-style dress fiddling with the half-finished paper-cut double happiness character. Noticing their arrival, she spoke up first. "Senior, this must be your wife. I was just admiring this half-finished double happiness paper cut. She's so skilled with her hands." Before Song Jichuan could introduce Tang Wan, Luo Susu stepped forward and grabbed her hand. "Sis-in-law, Brother Jichuan said he wasn't comfortable with me staying at the military guest house. He mentioned you have a spare room. Would you mind if I stayed there?" That same artificially innocent tone. Luo Susu had asked the identical question in their past life. How had she responded back then? She couldn't remember. Probably some hysterical refusal. "No, I don't mind. Stay as long as you like." Tang Wan withdrew her hand from Luo Susu's grasp and replied indifferently. Seeing Tang Wan's displeased expression, Song Jichuan had expected a refusal. He was just about to lecture her on being reasonable when, to his surprise, she agreed, albeit with unsettling indifference. "Then it's settled. Susu takes the guest room, you move into the master bedroom, and I'll sleep on the floor." Convinced their marriage was imminent, Song Jichuan saw no issue with cohabiting early, without consultation. He dictated that Tang Wan vacate her room. Tang Wan had planned to leave anyway. this new arrangement simply gave her legitimate reason to pack ahead of schedule, a development that suited her perfectly. She swiftly packed up everything from the guest bedroom, ready to move it all to the storage room. Just as she was about to toss her own wedding quilt in there too, Song Jichuan interrupted. Put the wedding quilt in the master bedroom instead, there's still space in my closet. The storage room's too dusty, wouldn't want to soil something so special. His words made both women in the room freeze. Luo Susu seethed with resentment. After all her years pining for Song Jichuan, he'd married some country girl instead. Tang Wan, however, remained indifferent. Where the quilt ended up meant nothing to her now that she'd never use it again. Song Jichuan carried the wedding quilt into his room himself, tucking it into the bottom cabinet of his wardrobe. Then he cleared half the space in the upper cabinet before turning to Tang Wan. You can put your clothes here. In his memory, Tang Wan's smile never surfaced. She just gave a cold nod and said, no rush. Song Jichuan couldn't figure out why Tang Wan seemed different today, assuming she was upset about him bringing Luo Susu home. While Susu was settling into the guest room, he decided to talk to Tang Wan again. Susu won't be staying long. She's an expert specially recruited by the military, they'll assign her housing soon, just bear with it for now. Alright. Listening to Song Jichuan's same old lecturing tone, Tang Wan suddenly felt an urge to laugh. What on earth had possessed her in her past life to fall for someone like him? Ignoring Song Jichuan's sermon, Tang Wan walked straight out of the room to prepare dinner. A man may work from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Though the scumbag was infuriating, she wasn't about to starve herself. The three finished their dinner in silence and retired to their rooms after washing up. Watching Tang Wan asleep in his bed, Song Jichuan felt a perverse thrill, annoyed she hadn't smiled at him all day. Just as he tried to speak, Tang Wan cut him off. Go to sleep early, I'm heading home tomorrow and need to make an early start. Alright. Have your grandfather pick an auspicious date tomorrow. And we'll go get our marriage license. Tang Wan remained silent, and Song Jichuan assumed she was tired and had already fallen asleep. The next day, Tang Wan deliberately slept in to avoid Song Jichuan and the others. Only after they left did she get up, pack her belongings into a suitcase, and prepare to return to the village. As she was leaving, a neighbor jokingly asked Tang Wan when she was getting married. She brushed off the question and hurried straight to the bus stop. After an hour and a half on the bus followed by an hour's walk, Tang Wan finally reached her family home. When elderly villagers at the entrance asked about the suitcase she carried, she simply said they were things she no longer needed. Tang Wan returned to the village with two purposes: to break off her engagement with the Song family, and to obtain documentation from the village committee allowing her to take the upcoming college entrance exams. Once considered the village's brightest college prospect, Tang Wan had become infatuated with Song Jichuan since their meeting. Disregarding even the village secretary's advice, she'd pinned all her hopes on marriage, unwilling to be separated from Song by university studies. Retrieving the jade pendant exchanged during their engagement from her home, Tang Wan tucked it into her pocket and set off for the Song residence. This marriage was bought with Tang Wan's father's life. When old Master Song retired and returned to Tang village, he learned that Tang Wan's father had passed away, leaving her as the sole survivor of their family. Out of gratitude for being saved by her father in his youth, the old man forcibly arranged her marriage to Song Jichuan. Old Master Song sent Tang Wan to Song Jichuan's side under the pretense of repaying a life debt, insisting they spend time cultivating feelings before eventually marrying. For 2 years by Song Jichuan's side, Tang Wan received nothing but indifferent treatment without the slightest hint of affection. Just when she'd given up hope, he unexpectedly proposed their engagement during this year's Lunar New Year reunion banquet. Overwhelmed by euphoria, Tang Wan completely missed the hidden meaning in Song Jichuan's eyes at that moment. The Song residence wasn't far from her home. In no time, Tang Wan arrived and knocked. The housekeeper caring for old Master Song opened the door and immediately ushered her in. Upon recognizing her, "Wan Wan, come here," old Master Song called out affectionately using her childhood nickname as soon as he saw her, beckoning her to his side. "Grandpa." Tang Wan's eyes welled up, counting her past life. It had been decades since she'd last seen him, the kindest soul in her world after her father's passing. Hearing the tremor in her voice, old Master Song quickly took Tang Wan's hand and guided her to sit down. "Wan Wan, what's wrong? Did Jichuan bully you? Tell Grandpa, I'll make sure he pays for it." Tang Wan realized her tone was off and quickly composed herself. "No, Grandpa, Song Jichuan didn't do anything to me. Old Master Song froze when he heard Tang Wan address his grandson by his full name, being sharp-witted. He immediately recognized this change in how she referred to him meant she must have something serious to discuss today. Wan, Jichuan hasn't been giving you trouble, has he? What brings you back so suddenly? Weren't you supposed to be preparing for the wedding? Have you got everything ready? Tang Wan's fingers tightened around the jade pendant in her pocket when Grandpa Song brought up her marriage to Jichuan. Instead of responding immediately, she silently produced the engagement token. Grandfather, I want to break off the engagement with Song Jichuan. I don't wish to marry him anymore. The old Song patriarch was stunned, though Tang Wan appeared gentle. She'd inherited her father's stubbornness. Once her mind was made up, there'd be no changing it. Instead of taking Tang Wan's jade pendant, Old Master Song gently patted her head and said tenderly, "Our Wan has been wronged. If you truly wish to break off the engagement with Jichuan, Grandfather supports your decision. But tell me, dear, how has that boy mistreated you? I'll give him a proper thrashing before dissolving the betrothal." Hearing Grandfather Song not only refrain from blame but actually endorse ending the engagement, the accumulated grievances from both this life and the last came flooding out as unstoppable tears. Tang Wan collapsed into the old man's arms, weeping as if purging lifetimes of sorrow. She trembled violently against Grandfather Song's chest, her sobs bordering on convulsions. Old Master Song was stunned by the overwhelming grief. Back when Tang Wan's father passed, she'd nearly cried herself unconscious. What on earth had Song Jichuan done to devastate her so? The old master abandoned any thought of persuading Tang Wan. The girl's heart was truly broken beyond repair now. Forcing them together would only create a miserable, resentful couple. After her violent sobbing subsided, Tang Wan raised her swollen, reddened eyes. Old Master Song immediately sent Aunt Shui to boil eggs for compressing the puffiness. Only when Tang Wan had fully calmed did Old Master Song finally speak. Wan, don't worry. I'll have Aunt Shui fetch Secretary Tang shortly to retrieve the betrothal documents and cancel this engagement for you. Seeing Grandpa Song agree to her request to break off the engagement without any questions, Tang Wan felt another pang of sorrow in her heart. Grandpa, I'm sorry, I know I've been willful, but I just don't have feelings for Jichuan anymore. I don't even know how to love him now. I'm so tired, Grandpa. Tang Wan kept stammering apologies to Elder Song, never speaking ill of Jichuan, only insisting she'd fallen out of love with him. Wan, no need to apologize. I've always said, if you can't be my granddaughter-in-law, then be my granddaughter. As my granddaughter, I'll support whatever decision you make. Elder Song patted Tang Wan's back reassuringly, urging her not to dwell on guilt before gently inquiring, Wan, what plans do you have after calling off the engagement? Grandpa, I want to go to college and see the world beyond. Tang Wan shared her plans, eager to hear Old Man Song's advice. To everyone's surprise, Old Man Song immediately voiced his approval when he heard Tang Wan's aspiration. College is wonderful. If Wan gets into university, she'll have her own path in life. This old man can finally rest easy about her future. But you've been out of school for 2 years. Do you still remember what you've missed? My old friend's son teaches at the county's top high school. When you return, go study with him. With your bright mind, Wan, you'll pick up everything in no time. Touched by Grandpa Song's wholehearted support and his initiative to find her a tutor, Tang Wan eagerly shared her future plans with him. She wanted the elderly man to understand this wasn't some impulsive decision. She'd carefully mapped out her path before deciding to break off the engagement for college. Following Grandpa Song's instructions, Aunt Shui had summoned Village Secretary Tang. The moment Secretary Tang arrived and saw Tang Wan's puffy eyes from crying, then heard about the called-off marriage between their families, he immediately retrieved the original marriage contract from the village office without hesitation. Grandpa Song tore up the marriage contract before both parties and reclaimed the jade pendant from Tang Wan. With these actions, Tang Wan finally severed all ties with Song Jichuan for good. When Secretary Tang learned of Tang Wan's plan to retake the college entrance exams, he wholeheartedly endorsed it. Without delay, he processed her academic credentials, enabling her to participate in that year's national examinations. With both matters resolved smoothly, Tang Wan felt considerably more at ease. She decided to stay in the village for a few days before returning to the county town to rent a place and prepare for her college entrance exams. 3 days later, Tang Wan followed Old Master Song's advice and returned to Song Jichuan's residence. The military compound offered greater security, And it was conveniently close to the high school teacher's home that the old man had recommended for her tutoring sessions. Old Master Song promised Tangwon he'd keep their broken engagement confidential for now, ensuring Song Jichuan remained unaware until after her college entrance exams. When Tangwon returned to Song Jichuan's place, Luo Susu had already moved out. Rumor had it Song had pulled strings to secure her an early housing allocation in the adjacent building. Seeing that Luo Susu had moved out, Tangwon also returned to the secondary bedroom. She then used her savings to purchase all the textbooks needed for the college entrance exams, focusing entirely on her exam preparations. Song Jichuan noticed Tangwon had grown increasingly distant since returning from the village. He wondered if she was upset because the wedding date his grandfather calculated was later than expected. During this period, Song Jichuan would bring Tangwon different snacks and trinkets each time he returned, trying to cheer her up. But Tangwon remained uninterested, and over time, Song grew accustomed to her cold demeanor. He consulted some married colleagues in the military, who said it was just pre-wedding jitters and things would improve after the marriage. Time flew by as Tangwon immersed herself in the sea of knowledge, paying no mind to anything else, not even when her neighbor reminded her to keep an eye on Song Jichuan. Ridiculous. Song Jichuan meant nothing to Tangwon now. Luo Susu kept finding excuses to be alone with him, even boldly provoking Tangwon, who simply ignored it. The three maintained this strange equilibrium until Tangwon's college entrance exams arrived. To avoid complications during her exams, Tangwon told Song Jichuan she was returning to the village for errands and to visit Grandpa Song. In truth, she booked a hotel room for several days to stay there during the test period. Song Jichuan didn't question it. Tangwon smoothly completed her exams, and now all that remained was waiting for the results. On the day the college entrance exams ended, Tangwon checked out of the hotel immediately. She couldn't afford to waste money on lodging now. After packing her things, she headed straight back to Song Jichuan's place. Unexpectedly, she walked into Song Jichuan's gathering with his army buddies. As she arrived, one comrade was lamenting how Song was trapped by a debt of gratitude. Stuck with a woman completely beneath him, the old Tangwon would have quietly slipped away to avoid disturbing them, but this new version barged right through the door without hesitation. The whole group froze at her sudden entrance. The man who'd called her unworthy flushed crimson. This was his first time getting caught badmouthing someone to their face. Song Jichuan reacted most strongly, seeing Tangwon push the door open and stride in. He abruptly rose to his feet and crossed the room to her side, not even bothering to right the chair he'd knocked over in his haste. Xiangzi speaks without thinking. Don't take his words to heart. The first thing Song Jichuan said as he grasped Tangwon's wrist was to apologize on behalf of his comrade. And what if I do take it to heart? Tangwon fixed him with an icy stare. Tangwon, be reasonable. Chang's had too much to drink. He's being childish, but you should know better. Exhausted after 2 grueling days of college entrance exams, Tangwon looked up at the man before her and suddenly felt utterly drained. She pulled her wrist free from his grasp, rubbing it absently. Fine, I'll behave. With that, she walked past everyone in the living room and retreated straight to the guest bedroom. Song Jichuan stood frozen in surprise at Tangwon's unexpected restraint. It was Luo Susu, who'd remained silent until now, who finally spoke up. Brother Jichuan. Sister-in-law looks exhausted. We shouldn't disturb her any longer. Xiangzi spoke out of turn after drinking. But you know what they say, drunken words are sober thoughts. Please comfort your wife and tell her not to take it to heart. Then Luo Susu, acting like the lady of the house, ushered Song Jichuan's comrades out together. Everyone else had left. Only Luo Susu remained in the living room. Song Jichuan had been frozen in position, staring intently at the guest bedroom door since Tangwon's departure, not uttering a single word. Seeing how profoundly Tangwon now affected Song Jichuan, Luo Susu bit her lip and tried reasoning with him. Not only did he ignore her, he asked her to leave as well. Luo Susu left unwillingly, her jealousy clouding her judgment. She couldn't wait any longer. It was clear Jichuan's affections had shifted toward Tangwon. If she didn't act now, she'd lose him for good. After everyone departed, Song Jichuan sat motionless on the sofa facing the guest bedroom door, a lit cigarette between his fingers. Tangwon's gaze today had unsettled him. It held none of its usual tenderness, as if she were looking at a stranger. This situation had slipped beyond Song Jichuan's control. The Tangwon who'd gazed at him with adoration on their engagement day was gone. When had she disappeared? He couldn't pinpoint the moment. Song Jichuan spent the entire night in the living room, racking his brain for the reason behind Tang Wan's transformation. At dawn, a refreshed Tang Wan emerged from the guest room to find the carpet littered with cigarette butts and a hollow-eyed Jichuan. Wan, about yesterday, I was wrong, those things they said didn't come from me, Song Jichuan hastily explained as he saw Tang Wan emerge from the bedroom. Tang Wan recoiled a step from the stale cigarette smoke clinging to Song Jichuan. I told you yesterday, I'm reasonable enough to let it go. You don't need to keep apologizing. Aware of his tobacco-stenched clothes and Tang Wan's aversion to it, Song Jichuan kept his distance and said, Wan, I'm taking leave from the team today, let's submit our marriage application together tomorrow. Grandpa's chosen date is too far off, I want to marry you sooner. Song Jichuan kept feeling he was losing his grip on Tang Wan, so he played the marriage card. He expected her to immediately agree to his proposal of an early wedding, fluttering around him like an excited little magpie. The anticipated scenario never materialized. Tang Wan remained standing aloof with cold indifference. I'm afraid this wedding isn't happening. Before Tang Wan could continue, Song Jichuan cut her off. Wan, don't worry, I'll talk to Grandpa. This is the new China, we don't follow those old superstitions about auspicious dates anymore. If you're afraid he'll blame us, I'll take you to apologize to him in person after we get our marriage license. Without giving Tang Wan a chance to respond, Song Jichuan excused himself, claiming he was running late. Tang Wan clicked her tongue, so now she'd managed to extricate herself, only for Song Jichuan to get tangled up instead. It just proved what netizens would say decades later, men are hopeless. After some deliberation, Tang Wan felt confident about her college entrance exam results. University admission was guaranteed, but she resolved to sever all ties with Song Jichuan. With this decision made, she turned and walked out the door. At the military housing compound entrance, Tang Wan chatted with several officers' wives. With feigned shyness, she mentioned Song Jichuan's eagerness to marry her, casually inquiring about the required documentation for marriage registration. Their conversation reached Luo Susu's ears. The revelation that Song Jichuan had proposed to Tang Wan twisted Luo's heart with jealousy, making her oblivious to Tang Wan's deliberate glance in her direction. Having planted the information, Tang Wan now waited for Luo Susu to make her move, hoping her rival wouldn't disappoint. Though this lifetime Song Jichuan was different from before, Tang Wan refused to tie her hard-won rebirth to him again. Now she could only pin her hopes on Luo Susu stirring up trouble to make Song abandon his marriage proposal. Luo Susu lived up to expectations. Within days, she'd made Song drop his marriage plans. Though the wedding was off, Song became increasingly attentive to Tang Wan, obeying her every word until his devoted husband reputation spread through the military compound. When college admission results were due, Tang Wan repeated her old trick, claiming a village visit to secretly check the postings a day early. After confirming her scores would secure her dream school, she planned to confront Song directly upon returning, but the real shock came after her return. Luo Susu delivered an unbelievable surprise by getting Song into bed. After checking her exam results early in the morning, Tang Wan returned to the family compound. The moment she opened the door, an unmistakable scent hit her nostrils. No innocent maiden, she knew exactly what that smell meant. Without hesitation, she pushed open the master bedroom door to find two naked bodies entwined beneath the wedding quilt she'd painstakingly embroidered. The creaking door startled Song Jichuan awake. His face drained of color when he saw Tang Wan standing frozen in the doorway, her expression unreadable as she took in the sight of him and Luo Susu lying in what was supposed to be their marital bed. Tang Wan's eyes swept over them with icy detachment before she turned on her heel and left the bedroom. As Song Jichuan scrambled to follow, her voice cut through the air like a winter gale. I'm not leaving. Get dressed and meet me in the living room. Song Jichuan moved swiftly. The moment Tang Wan settled onto the living room sofa, he hastily threw on some clothes and rushed out to meet her. Wan, let me explain. We had too much to drink last night. That's the only reason things went that far. Flustered, Song Jichuan pleaded for Tang Wan's forgiveness, but her face remained utterly blank. No sorrow, no anguish, no resentment, nor the love he'd hoped to see. Tang Wan regarded him like a complete stranger. Her tone casual as if remarking on the pleasant weather. This isn't your first time, is it? Let me guess, when did you two start getting cozy? Was it after you last mentioned marriage? Tang Wan fired off question after question without expecting answers, then simply gazed quietly at Song Jichuan, staring at the man who brought her a lifetime of misery in her past life and nearly broke her resolve in this one. Thank heavens she'd come to her senses, under Tang Wan's questioning. Song Jichuan hung his head in shame before mustering the courage to kneel before her. Wan, I was wrong, I swear I'll cut all ties with her, please give me another chance. Luo Susu stepped out of the bedroom, freshly groomed, only to see Song Jichuan prostrate before Tang Wan, who remained imperiously seated on the sofa. She immediately rushed to his side. Brother Jichuan, get up, we're in love, and you two aren't even married. We've done nothing wrong. She's just using Elder Song's influence to bully you, you don't owe her an apology. Luo Susu tugged at Song Jichuan's sleeve, trying to make him stand, but when he heard her declare their true love right before Tang Wan, remorse overwhelmed him. He shoved her aside and coldly stated he'd never loved her. Tang Wan observed the scene, these two destined golden children, this celestial couple-to-be, now reduced to such a state. How the tables had turned. Would you two kindly quiet down and let me speak? Just as Song Jichuan thought Tang Wan was finally willing to speak to him again and was about to beg for her forgiveness, she delivered what felt like a death sentence. Song Jichuan, you're tainted now. I don't keep what's tainted, and I've been meaning to tell you. Our engagement was called off 6 months ago. These months I've stayed here. Consider it payment for the 2 years I spent taking care of you. I only came back today to tell you I'm moving out. Running into you two like this was just coincidence. Don't read too much into it. After finishing with Song Jichuan, Tang Wan turned her gaze to Luo Susu. Professor Luo, you're absolutely right about marriage being a free choice nowadays, but let's not forget basic decency. After all, the world still sees Song Jichuan as my fiancé. When you leave later, do cover up properly, unless you want to ruin your own future. Having said this, Tang Wan stood up to leave, only to be abruptly grabbed by a now alert Song Jichuan as she reached the doorway. Explain yourself. What's this about calling off the engagement? Since when? Why wasn't I informed? Tang Wan struggled briefly against his grip before giving up and deciding to lay all her cards on the table. Song Jichuan, you were the one who proposed marriage without even consulting me first. So I owe you no explanation for calling it off. Let me make this crystal clear, I don't love you anymore. I don't want to share a life with you. I can't stand the sight of you, and I want absolutely nothing to do with you. Tang Wan's temper flared, her voice rising involuntarily. Weren't you reluctant to marry me too? Otherwise how could that woman have gotten between us? Did you enjoy sleeping under the wedding quilt I embroidered? I can explain everything. Breaking off an engagement is no trivial matter. Wan, don't make a rash decision you'll regret. Seeing Song Jichuan still refusing to believe she'd truly broken off their engagement, Tang Wan sneered. An explanation? Regrets? Should I explain how you two tumbled into bed out of loneliness? Or how you secretly reveled in having a genius scientist obsessed with you? Song Jichuan, you're 28, not 8. You understand the depth in a woman's gaze, Luo Susu's affection for you, my love for you, and the torment of my insecurities, having fun watching 2 women fight over you. Disappointed I didn't throw hands today. If you're really itching to see me throw down for you, that can be arranged. Seizing Song Jichuan's momentary distraction, Tang Wan wrenched free and stormed back inside. Before Luo Susu could react, she delivered 3 stinging slaps, left, right, left, across her face. The blows left Luo Susu reeling. She gaped in disbelief. No one had ever dared lay hands on her like this, least of all Tang Wan. Those 3 slaps felt so satisfying for Tang Wan. This must be what netizens call hand-tearing a homewrecker. Damn, I should have done this sooner. Luo Susu snapped out of it with a piercing scream, charging at Tang Wan while shrieking. Ready to retaliate, Song Jichuan, standing nearby, froze when Tang Wan actually struck, then immediately stepped in to block Luo Susu upon seeing her lunge for revenge. Keep it down, Professor Luo. One more outburst and your dirty little secret won't stay secret anymore. 4. There was no hiding it anyway. Song Jichuan and Tang Wan's loud argument at the doorway had already carried through the neighborhood. The apartment walls were paper-thin to begin with, and with Luo Susu's shrieking added to the mix, the whole compound probably knew what was happening. Seizing the moment while Song Jichuan restrained the hysterical Luo Susu, Tang Wan prepared to leave. Song Jichuan, may you have a blissful marriage. With that, Tang Wan pulled the door open and strode out. Neighbors in the hallway watched her exit but didn't dare approach, their gazes a mix of pity, schadenfreude, and other unreadable emotions. Without a second thought, Tang Wan stepped out of the residential compound. Bathed in the midsummer sunlight, with a bright future stretching ahead of her, Song Jichuan ultimately failed to stop Tang Wan. after leaving him, she decided to return to the village for a while, both to await her college admission letter there and to spend more time with Grandpa Song. She had chosen to study architecture in Shanghai, 1,000 miles from home, anticipating she wouldn't return during her 4-year university years. She resolved to fulfill her filial duties while she still could. When Grandpa Song learned Tang Wan would attend university in the south, he simply nodded and reminded her to take good care of herself after leaving home. During this time, Song Jichuan kept returning to the village trying to win Tang Wan back, but every visit ended with either Grandpa Song driving him away or Secretary Tang scolding him off. When Song Jichuan came again, he happened to see Secretary Tang delivering Tang Wan's university acceptance letter. Watching Tang Wan hold that crimson admission notice with a radiant smile he hadn't seen in ages, Song finally realized she'd moved on long ago and there was no going back. News of Tang Wan's admission to Shanghai's top university spread through the county like wildfire. A college student and from Shanghai's prestigious institution no less, the county hadn't produced a university graduate in years. To honor Tang Wan's achievement, county officials specially invited her to teach at No. 1 County High School, hoping her story would inspire students while sharing valuable study techniques. The county covered Tang Wan's living and travel expenses for college, so she couldn't refuse their request to give a speech at County No. 1 High School. Song Jichuan stopped contacting Tang Wan entirely after learning she'd attend university. She thought he'd finally given up. Just when things quieted down with Song, Luo Susu decided to stir up trouble instead. On the day of the speech, Tang Wan arrived only to discover, to her surprise, that Luo Susu had also been invited to speak at the event. Dressed in a chic Western-style outfit, Luo Susu took the stage at County No. 1 High School, sharing her journey to becoming a scientist and her experiences during overseas assignments. Setting other matters aside, Luo's presentation today was both successful and polished. She opened a window to a different world for these rural students, introducing them to diverse perspectives. When Tang Wan's turn came, she focused solely on study techniques, efficient revision methods, deciphering examiners' intentions, predicting test questions, and overcoming academic slumps. Overshadowed by Luo's stellar performance, Tang's study seminar failed to engage the students. Just as she was about to relinquish the microphone, Luo raised her hand. Nobody knew why Luo Susu suddenly raised her hand to ask a question, but it's generally frowned upon to interrupt these lecture sessions. Then came Luo Susu's smiling inquiry directed at Tang Wan. Miss Tang, rumor has it you took a 2-year leave to prepare for marriage. What made you suddenly decide to return for university exams, trying to keep up with your partner? Tang Wan's marriage preparations during her academic hiatus were common knowledge in the county. Yet no one would spoil her happy occasion, except Luo Susu. Of course, ever since Tang Wan left that day, Song Jichuan completely cut ties with Luo Susu. When she later heard Tang Wan got into a prestigious university, the bitterness consumed her. That's why she chose to publicly humiliate Tang Wan in front of everyone. Luo Susu's words barely affected Tang Wan, but this presented a perfect opportunity to distance herself from Song Jichuan once more. Picking up the microphone, she paused thoughtfully before speaking. When I returned to prepare for university entrance exams, I nearly gave up countless times, but at each breaking point, I'd write these words in my notebook: to establish moral principles for heaven and earth, to secure life and fortune for the people, to continue lost teachings of past sages, and to open eternal peace for all generations. Zhang Zai's 4 sentences from Henku became my driving force, yet I know my limitations. I'm no match for the distinguished educators present here, so instead, I'll simply share my study methods. But if Professor Luo insists on a reason, I'd simply say the world is vast and magnificent. I refuse to be confined to a corner. I too want to experience what you've just shared with your students. As for whether I want to grow alongside a partner, my answer is this: the sole prerequisite for my efficient study routine. Ditch your lover once you succeed. Oh, and I'm currently single. Tang Wan's quip about ditching your lover had the students roaring with laughter, while even the observing faculty praised her exceptional presentation. Ditch your lover once you succeed, Song Jichuan murmured from the back row, his gaze fixed on the radiant Tang Wan at the podium, eyes brimming with longing. Someone this extraordinary, and he'd let her slip away. After that day, Luo Susu never appeared before Tang Wan again. She spent her last tranquil summer at home before arriving in Shanghai when the new semester began in September. Life in Shanghai was vibrant, intense studies, new friendships, and countless training programs filled Tang Wan's days. Only the monthly remittance of 100 yuan occasionally stirred Tang Wan's memories of the past. Since disappearing from her life, Song Jichuan had unfailingly sent money each month, along with a steady stream of hometown delicacies delivered to her school. Even her dorm mates marveled at how she could have such a devoted admirer. Tang Wan always remained aloof when the topic arose, never engaging. Over time, everyone recognized her stance and stopped mentioning it. The 4 years of college flew by in a blink. With outstanding academic performance, Tang Wan earned a direct admission to her university's graduate program. While her roommates were busy preparing for civil service exams or job hunting, she found time to make a trip back home. This homecoming served dual purposes, returning Song Jichuan's money and visiting Grandpa Song and Secretary Tang one last time. Tang Wan knew perfectly well that after graduate school, she'd join a design institute and settle in Shanghai permanently, leaving behind the small county town that had raised her for 20 years. Tang Wan returned without alerting anyone. Only after resting at home did she visit Grandpa Song the next day. The old man gasped at her sudden appearance, then affectionately rapped her head while chiding her for staying away so long. Though Tang Wan called monthly to reassure them, she never actually returned. Grandpa Song understood his grandson still carried a torch for her, but to spare Tang Wan any awkwardness, he never explicitly asked her to come back. Thinking of the trouble Song Jichuan had caused these past 2 months, Old Master Song sighed inwardly but kept a cheerful demeanor as he shared a meal with Tang Wan. During this return visit, Tang Wan planned to formally resign from her military dependents housing position. Since she likely wouldn't be coming back, it wouldn't be right to keep the job reserved. After 4 years, the military housing compound appeared unchanged yet somehow different. With her ID in hand, Tang Wan quickly cleared security and entered the compound's administrative office. "Sister Lin," Tang Wan called out upon spotting the familiar face in the office. "Tang Wan, what brings you back?" Sister Lin barely recognized the girl she hadn't seen in 4 years. College life had transformed Tang Wan from the inside out. She now radiated a refined brilliance. Were it not for that familiar voice, Sister Lin wouldn't have believed it was her. "Sister Lin, I got accepted to grad school. I'll probably stay in Shanghai permanently now. Just came back to handle some paperwork while I have time." Hearing Tang Wan's plans to never return, Sister Lin sighed, her mind drifting to the mess Song Jichuan had caused. "Maybe it's better you don't come back. You're doing so well now. No need to get tangled up in all this." Tang Wan looked at Sister Lin with surprise. Sister Lin knew that after all this time, Tang Wan had likely moved on, so she saw no point in keeping it from her anymore. Back when Tang Wan was in her first year of college, Song Jichuan volunteered for an elite unit mission, aiming for a quick promotion to transfer closer to her in the Eastern Theater Command. After Song Jichuan left, Luo Susu's reputation as a brilliant scientist took a nosedive. Despite having chances to transfer, she stubbornly stayed put, determined to wait for his return. 6 months ago, Song Jichuan returned with honors and secured transfer approval through his military merits. Unexpectedly, Luo Susu found out and manipulated circumstances to rekindle their intimate relationship. 2 months later, Luo became pregnant. Just as Song was on the verge of his career breakthrough, she revealed her pregnancy to the political commissar, demanding marriage under threat of rape accusations. The scandal caused turmoil in their unit. Luo was immediately suspended, while Song's transfer got frozen. Now she relentlessly pressures him daily to marry her. After hearing Sister Lin's gossip, Tang Wan sighed at the twists of fate. Luo Susu would truly stop at nothing to claim Song Jichuan. Before long, Sister Lin had completed the paperwork. Tang Wan expressed her thanks and left the office. Heading home, just outside the military compound, she spotted Song Jichuan in full uniform standing at the corner of the gate, a lit cigarette in hand. Seeing Song Jichuan again, Tang Wan felt surprisingly calm, but judging by his stance, she realized there was no way she could leave without approaching him today. "I heard you're going to be a father. Congratulations," Tang Wan said as she stepped forward. "Wan, I had no choice." Tang Wan nodded casually before reaching into her pocket and handing Song Jichuan a passbook. "This is all the money you've sent me over the past 4 years. Since we've run into each other today, I might as well return it." Song Jichuan gave a bitter smile. Wan, is there really nothing else we can say to each other?" "No." Seeing Song Jichuan hadn't taken it, Tang Wan tossed the passbook directly into his arms. After a moment's reflection on what Sister Lin had just said, she continued, "Song Jichuan, you don't understand me at all. Sending money and gifts, you're only fooling yourself, none of that moves me. Do you remember what I told you during my engagement? Song Jichuan froze. He'd been so impatient back then. How could he possibly recall Tang Wan's words from that day? Your expression tells me you've forgotten. When I said I'd treat you exceptionally well, that promise was for you, but the unspoken half was for myself. The day you stop loving me, I'll walk away without looking back. I never said I stopped loving you. If I hadn't slept with Luo Susu, couldn't we have made this work? Song Jichuan desperately searched for hope in Tang Wan's response. Song Jichuan, had you not been with Luo Susu, we might have married. Then you'd still be doting on your junior while neglecting me. Only to show me scraps of affection when I'm at my breaking point. You trained me like a dog, systematically wearing down my edges until I became this broken, marriage-ruined mess. That's always been your specialty, hasn't it? No, never. I would never do such a thing. Perhaps Tang Wan's icy tone deepened the agony on Song Jichuan's face. Wouldn't you, Song Jichuan, Secretary Song? Did I make a pretty corpse in our past life? A thunderous explosion erupted in Song Jichuan's mind. A searing pain shot through his chest, forcing him to double over, yet he still raised his ashen face to meet Tang Wan's gaze. Wan, when did you find out? When was it? Freshman year. You had someone deliver sunflowers to me. You were there that day, weren't you? You wouldn't know this now, but in our past life, you only sent those when you'd made me angry. Tang Wan calmly explained how she'd uncovered the flaw, then let out a vicious chuckle. So, Secretary Song, was my corpse beautiful in our past life? By the time you returned, had I already begun to rot? This time Song Jichuan truly couldn't hold back. Blood gushed from his mouth as he collapsed. The commotion alerted nearby guards, but before they arrived, Tang Wan uttered her final words. Song Jichuan, those who lose me forever. In this lifetime, I choose to live well, so let today be our final meeting. She turned away without a backward glance. Indifferent to the desperation and longing in his eyes. Epilogue. After returning to Shanghai, Tang Wan completed her postgraduate studies, spent a year abroad on government scholarship, and became the youngest chief designer at Shanghai Design Institute. Her career flourished as she contributed to the city's reform and development projects. I met the love of my life at work, married him, started a family, and lived happily ever after. During this time, she only returned to her hometown when Grandpa Song passed away. Song Jichuan respected Tang Wan's wishes and never disturbed her. Song Jichuan's side story. 5. My first life ended the year after Tang Wan's death. A heart attack took me. Though my heart had always been perfectly healthy before that, it was just startled by Tang Wan, who opened the door after her long business trip. After she left, the pain haunted me every night. When Tang Wan left, our affair was exposed online by neighbors. Both Susu and I suffered major career setbacks, branded as a scumbag and a homewrecker. I didn't care. None of it held my interest. Not power, not Susu's admiration. Only when Susu proposed marriage a year later did it truly hit me. Tang Wan was gone. Then I understood. Tang Wan was my oxygen. My heart, starved of air, simply stopped beating on its own. My second life began at 28. Everything remained the same, yet everything had changed. To win Wan back, I threw myself into every mission, desperate to get transferred closer to her and start anew. With memories from my past life, I was certain I could reclaim Wan's heart. As for that woman Luo Susu, I'd handle her too, but I underestimated Luo Susu. She drugged me, forced herself on me, then came to me later with a swollen belly. When I learned Luo Susu was pregnant, I knew there was no future between Wan and me, so I resigned myself to taking responsibility for Susu. But unexpectedly, Susu found the remittance slip I'd sent to Wan. In a fit of rage, she blurted out the truth. The child wasn't mine at all. Hope dawned again when I heard Wan had returned that same day. Standing at the military compound gates watching her approach, I thanked heaven countless times for this second chance. Only later did I realize it wasn't my chance at all. It was Wan's final step in cutting all ties with me. Wan truly excelled this time. She got into university on her own merits, completed both her bachelor's and master's degrees on scholarship, and even studied abroad. Wan looked absolutely radiant on her wedding day, dressed in a modern wedding gown like an angel, just not an angel meant for me. In this lifetime, I only met Wan once, yet she recognized me at first glance. My Wan was so brilliant. It's just that she no longer belongs to me. Story 2. I chased after Shijing, the campus heartthrob from humble beginnings, for a whole year, spending lavishly and making a complete fool of myself in pursuit. finally managed to win over this unattainable prince who stood as aloof as pines and bamboos, but at my birthday banquet where I first introduced him publicly, he shielded some delicate scholarship student like a white lotus, then dumped an entire bottle of red wine on me in front of everyone, before I could recover from the shock and fury. Lines of text materialized midair. Serves her right, the male lead's rebirth arc demands brutal payback against that villainess, the wheel of fortune turns, last lifetime she drove the heroine to suicide, now it's her turn, karma's a bitch, she had everything yet stole from the FL and bullied her, dying bankrupt was mercy after what the ML made her suffer, as if to confirm the utter absurdity of the words, Shi Jing shot me a disdainful glance, then tenderly comforted the person in his arms. Don't be afraid of her, so what if she's rich? As long as I'm here, no one will ever bully you again. The delicate girl looked pitifully at him. Brother, sure, you don't have to stick up for me, I'm used to it. People around me were staring, pointing, and looking at me strangely. I wiped my face. The next second, I swung my arm and slapped them. I rubbed my stinging palm, tucked my hair behind my ear, and sneered, trying to be a hero. You clearly don't know your place. I've got 2 graves dug right here. Want M1, sticky wine dripped down my hair, which I'd spent an hour meticulously styling. My nominal boyfriend, Shi Jing, had just put down an empty wine bottle. 2 minutes ago, in an unnoticed corner, Su Yinwan stood before me, a beaming smile on her face, dressed in a cheap knockoff of my gown. Jiang, we share the same birthday, yet because you're rich, everyone only remembers you. Sometimes I really envy you, so today, I'm giving you a grand gift. With that, she raised her hand and slapped herself hard across the face. The sharp sound of a slap drew everyone's attention. She fell to the ground, looking pitifully vulnerable. Shi Jing was the first to arrive. Without hesitation, he grabbed a bottle of red wine and splashed it all over me. It drenched me from head to toe. I stared at Shi Jing in disbelief. The dark red stain ruined my carefully planned birthday party like a jagged, dividing scar. I was going to announce our relationship at this very party. I'd even prepared expensive gifts and surprises for him at my own birthday party, yet at this moment, Shi Jing was shielding Su Yinwan protectively, cradling her like a long-lost treasure. My hands trembled violently. It wasn't just from heartbreak and my disheveled state. It was also because of the sudden appearance of scrolling lines of bright red text right before my eyes. Well done. After his rebirth, the male lead finally saw the wicked female antagonist for who she truly is. What goes around comes around. Last life, she drove the female lead to suicide. This life, it's her turn. Serves her right. She had everything and still stole from the female lead, bullying her relentlessly. Dying bankrupt was too good for her. My heart aches for the poor heroine. If that scheming side character hadn't stolen her scholarship, she wouldn't have been forced to take such desperate measures. I tentatively took a step forward, as if to confirm the absurd barrage of comments before my eyes. Shi Jing shot me a disdainful glance while shielding Su Yinwan more protectively. He comforted the sobbing girl in his arms. Don't be afraid of her. So what if she's rich? Does money give her the right to bully others? As long as I'm here, no one can harass you. I stared at Shi Jing, my hands trembling violently. You're saying I bullied her? Shi Jing's disgust deepened. What else? You think she slapped herself across the face? Su Yinwan leaned against Shi Jing, and at the opportune moment, lifted her pitiful, tear-filled face, her eyes red-rimmed. Jiang isn't doing this on purpose. It's all my fault for wearing the same dress as her. I'm so sorry, Jiang. I just wanted to dress nicely to celebrate your birthday. She choked back a sob. Sure. You don't have to stick up for me. If Jiang minds, let her vent. I've always known she has issues with poor people like us. I'm used to it. The people around them exchanged strange looks. The chirping of crickets from all directions had never been so clear. So what if they wore the same outfit? Is there any need to throw such a fit? Miss Jiang Fushua's temperament isn't exactly new. She's been chasing Shi Jing for ages, even breaking up his childhood sweethearts. But Shi Jing still has feelings for Su Yinwan, so how could she possibly be happy? Still, that's no excuse to bully someone like that. Su Yinwan was nestled in my boyfriend's arms. She looked up at me and silently mouthed, Miss Rich Girl, see, who'd believe you're innocent, too? I stared straight at Shi Jing. He'd clearly overheard the whispers around us, yet he showed not a shred of trust in me. He just glared at me as if I'd committed some unforgivable sin. Exactly like the villainess described in those barrage comments. Are those bullet comments for real? My heart sank to the depths. I pursued Shi Jing for a year. I spared no expense, put in all the effort, and did everything a simp would, from my best friend's confusion to the entire school's teasing. Jing remained unfazed. My best friend, Bairan, once scolded me, exasperated. I haven't seen him refuse any of your gifts, though. Okay, he hasn't sold them for cash either. So he's not exactly a gold digger, but his heart only beats for that childhood sweetheart, who's also from a poor family. Why are you, a rich young lady, getting involved? You're just making a fool of yourself. Of course, I know all about Jing and Su Yinwan being childhood sweethearts, everyone's talking about it, but I can't help it. I really like this type, because he's untainted by the muck, with a character as steadfast as a pine and as upright as bamboo. He constantly says he doesn't like anyone, his emotions are pure, and unlike his mother, who was a kept woman and took shortcuts to latch onto rich men, he possesses a clean, powerful drive to change his life through learning. I'm truly captivated by him, so, even when Jing approached me 3 days ago, holding his mother's exorbitant credit card bill, in a strange and awkward manner, I agreed readily, even admiring his pure-hearted filial devotion. It never crossed my mind that he'd strayed so soon from the very qualities that first drew me to him. That pretentious attitude, playing the businessman while putting on airs of superiority, was exactly what I despised most. Wiping the alcohol from my eyes felt like clearing away the fog before me, fingertips turned ice cold. If those bullet comments were telling the truth, he's been reborn. Would he still take revenge and ruin me? How dare they, just because he's the male lead, and I'm the villainess? I gave everything, money, effort, even my heart, and this is what I deserve. Rage exploded in my chest like dynamite. Screw your noble virtues, to hell with being a damsel in distress. A sharp, resounding slap brutally cut off the whispers. The force of it made Jing's handsome face snap to the side, leaving clear red finger marks. The entire place fell silent. Without hesitation, I grabbed another open champagne bottle from the nearby table and poured it straight over Jing and Su Yinwan's heads. Ah! Su Yinwan's shriek shattered the silence. Rubbing my stinging palms, I slicked my soaked hair behind my ears. Meeting the crowd's stunned gazes, I sneered, playing hero. For whom? You know your place. I've got 2 graves here. Want M3. Holy crap, doesn't the villainess love the male lead? Why isn't she playing by the rules? Honestly, I kinda like the villainess's crazy streak. It's no wonder the male lead failed miserably because of her in his last life. Jing shivered, jolted by the icy liquid. As if only just snapping back to reality, he stared at me in disbelief, clutching his swollen cheek. Jiang Fushue, how dare you hit me? How could you bring myself to? I advanced relentlessly, delivering another backhanded slap before switching to alternating strikes until his face was symmetrically red. Didn't your canary mother teach you a kept man's manners? Truly a pig that wallows in its own filth, living off me. Spending my money to pay your mother's debts, yet you had the gall to throw wine at me. Trash, you got a death wish, Su Yin shrieked. Jiang, how dare you humiliate people like this? I backhanded her without breaking stride, got so caught up hitting him, I nearly forgot you, me bullying you. You'd better pray I actually was bullying you before, because starting today, I'll show you what real bullying looks like. Life's gonna be as easy as flipping pancakes. Slap left, slap right. Are you saying I bullied her and drove her to suicide? Don't be ridiculous. I'm not psychotic enough to take someone's life. Especially not someone who couldn't measure up to me in anything, from academic performance to family background. What makes Su Yinwan worthy of me lowering my head to speak to her, even if she's Jing's childhood friend? I never gave her a second glance, yet she's the one sniveling about her disadvantages, hinting to everyone that she only loses to me because I have connections. Give me a break. My family didn't manipulate anything, from the national scholarships to the competition results. I rolled my eyes. Did you all hear that? Anyone who feels sorry for this male sugar baby and his childhood sweetheart can bear witness for me today. Jing and I are a fair match, I said, spreading my hands. He's after money, and I'm after looks. Consider this past year my gift to him. Just don't badmouth me behind my back anymore. A person can be blind once, but they shouldn't have to be disgusted twice. Okay. The crowd fell silent. My bestie was the first to snap out of it. Bairan shoved Jing aside and gleefully pulled me along. That's more like it. I told you his zodiac clashes with yours. Glorifying men only brings a lifetime of bad luck. I followed Bairan as she turned to leave. The barrage exploded even faster than Jing's reaction. Why's the supporting female leaving? This isn't how the plot goes. She's supposed to give the male lead her black card at the birthday party. how's the male lead gonna catch this investment wave without seed money? This is the crucial moment to buy that stock at rock bottom and build his first capital. Chill, the supporting females head over heels for him. Just wait, she'll come crawling back with puppy eyes any minute now. I glanced at the bullet comments, took the silk scarf from her hand, and roughly wiped my hair with it. It was tangled. I yanked off the hair clip, letting my hair fall over my shoulders. I casually swept my messy bangs back and tucked them behind my ears. The click-clack of high heels echoed on the ground. I said coldly, I'll have your supplementary card frozen. Get your trash out of the villa before tonight. Sure, Jing's eyes reddened. His gaze held disbelief, humiliation, and resentment, all condensing into one resolute declaration. Fine, I won't take a single cent from you, Jiang Fushue. Don't you dare regret this. His unyielding resilience, like the pure breeze and bright moon, stood tall as a steadfast pine, still as captivating as ever. Bai Iran declared loudly, four-legged toads are rare, but two-legged men are everywhere. Who cares about regrets, Fushue? Let's change and celebrate somewhere else. Don't let this ruin the mood. My treat, who's coming? The crowd surged forward, following Bai Iran and me, leaving Jing and Suyin completely ignored. I grasped her hand gratefully. Bai Iran winked at me with a playful grin. That's what sisters are for. She'd seen right through me. Every heart beats with compassion. Tough talk won't help. Stop being stubborn. That was a whole year, a year of my blood, sweat, and tears. How could I not feel heartbroken? Inside the luxurious Japanese onsen-themed pavilion, Bai Iran and I sat by the massive crystal floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the emerald green mountain ranges. The freshly airshipped black pearls still glistened with moisture. The supporting female character only moped for a week, and doesn't seem to be going after the male lead. Is this how it's supposed to be? Our poor male lead is suffering so much. That heartless supporting female took back his credit card. Now he's working 3 jobs to pay his mom's debts. Living on instant noodles for 3 days straight. At least the female lead is sticking by him. Just some dirty money. Let that supporting female enjoy it while she can. The male lead's got that reincarnated dragon protagonist script. Her comeuppance is coming. Bai Iran waved her hand in front of my eyes. What's wrong? You look terrible. Still upset about Jing. I rested my chin in my hand, stroking it thoughtfully. My other hand slowly tapped on the table. Bai Iran shivered. That look on your face, it's exactly how I looked when I seized the family fortune and dealt with my good-for-nothing brother. Creepy. Before she could finish, I suddenly broke into a genuine smile. Ran, has your brother returned from abroad? If I remember correctly, he specializes in biology, right? Yes, her eyes lit up. He actually mentioned wanting to meet you. He's always been fascinated by you, says it's impressive how you took over the family business at such a young age. I sighed sincerely. I'd been equally curious about him, fascinated by his biological research. Is this scrolling barrage projected directly onto retinas using VR tech or brainwave signals? If we crack this technology, can it be monetized? Bai Iran said. You've finally come to your senses. I nodded. Yeah, they threw mud at me, and I insisted on using that mud to plant flowers. She looked puzzled. I handed her my business card with a mysterious air. I want to meet your brother. Stop mumbling and speak plainly, you riddlemonger. Just forcing a smile while the male lead will never love you, trying to make him jealous. That won't work on the male lead. I stared at the scrolling barrage of comments, a radiant smile that dawned with glacial slowness, a smile that chilled the bones. Affection isn't something you can simply forget in a heartbeat, but time has a way of softening its edges. Only I, and my interests, are eternal. I raised my glass with disdain. Then I drained the amber liquid in my cup. 5. I had a meeting scheduled with Bai Iran's brother, Bai Hoen, at a coffee shop. The young man sat across from me, impeccably dressed, his shirt buttoned primly to the very top. The faint scent of disinfectant cut through the week's accumulated stickiness. He wore rimless glasses and extended a hand to shake mine. I got straight to the point. Hello, Professor Bai. I'm Ranran's friend. I assume she's already told you why I'm here. We're both straightforward people, so I'll just get right to it. Professor Bai, does this world possess technology capable of projecting language directly onto a person's retina in real time? Bai Hoen replied calmly. I'm afraid not, Miss Jiang. Given the current biological constraints of carbon-based lifeforms and our technological limitations, we cannot invade neural pathways to achieve real-time retinal projection. I said with grave seriousness, but what if, I really can see it? What's happening? System glitch. Can the supporting female character actually see us? So what if she sees us? What's she gonna do? Come at me if you dare. Baihoan calmly adjusted his glasses. A dangerous glint flickered in his mesmerizing eyes. He murmured, Miss John's brainwaves. Now those are truly worth studying. I casually pulled out a stack of documents from my bag. This is my recent EEG report. I took a sip of coffee, and here's my project proposal. If we collaborate, we could crack this technology. The potential is huge. You'd contribute your expertise for 15% equity. Fair enough. Baihoan studied me intently before curling his lips. Aren't you afraid, Miss Jiang? My smile never reached my eyes. I'm a businesswoman. I can chase someone foolishly for a year, but never at the cost of my own interests. Baihoan accepted the proposal cheerfully. You've misunderstood, Miss Jiang. I simply admire your competence, he said. You're becoming increasingly fascinating to me. Lower dimensional beings, speechless, these two insignificant ants biting off more than they can chew. The male lead has already seized the advantage after his rebirth, while the villainess remains clueless that Jiang Corporation's two lifeline investment projects are about to be snatched away, aren't they? As this barrage comment appeared, my phone's emergency alert tone suddenly rang out. Jiang, Mr. Jiang, Secretary Lin from Fingrui Group just called, saying there's a college student named Shi Jing who showed up with a bid proposal identical to ours, but that's supposed to be top secret. My usually composed chief secretary's voice was filled with panic. 6. The villainess must be panicking now. This kind of reborn, seizing the initiative, face-slapping, Mary Sue's story is just so satisfying. The chief secretary continued, that Shi Jing is waiting for you at the company right now. He said he has something to tell you. I grabbed my bag, politely bid Baihoan farewell, and headed to the office. On the elevator ride up to the CEO's office on the top floor, I weighed the bag in my hand. What a shame, a platinum Birkin, not suitable for hitting people. The elevator doors slid open with a whisper. Shi Jing lounged effortlessly across the parlor sofa. I still remember not long ago, before he came begging me to pay off his mother's credit card debt, when he perched on my villa's handcrafted Italian leather sofa. His stiff posture and rigid spine betrayed his discomfort amidst this world of luxury, genuine youthful innocence. But now, he stands unshaken like a veteran who's weathered countless storms, even in that studentish shirt and cheap slacks. He carries himself with quiet confidence. Why did you block me? I clenched my teeth, barely stopping myself from smashing my bag in his face. That's all you've got to say. Security. Shi Jing lifted his chin defiantly. Don't bother calling security. I'll leave on my own. You think I wanted to come here? With an arrogant smirk of triumph, Shi Jing declared, Jiang Fushue, I came to inform you. I'll fight the Jiang Corporation to the bitter end. I know all about your schemes. When your empire crumbles, we'll see how high and mighty you remain. I handed my bag to my assistant and beckoned with a curled finger. Damn right it's impressive. How'd you know? Come closer. Skip the civil mediation. I'll slap another 50 grand's worth onto you. Behave, and I'll throw in an extra 50 grand for emotional damages. Help your kept woman mom pay off her maxed up credit cards. Again, Shi Jing's cheek twitched. A nerve had been struck. He glared at me with misplaced superiority, conveniently omitting how he'd been scraping by lately. Jiang Fushue, you're always like this, acting all high and mighty, as if you're doing someone a favor. Get this straight, I'm the one who knows about your bid now. You should be begging me. I remained calm. Who's begging whom? What do you want? If Bairan were here, she'd definitely say it for me. Shi Jing is dead meat. The last person who threatened me was my brother, who was fighting me for the family inheritance. He's been dead and buried for ages. Shi Jing, however, clearly misunderstood. He looked at me, now calm and seemingly just bluffing, with a complicated expression, a mix of nostalgia and inner conflict. After a long pause, he sighed. Fushue, I know you still have feelings for me and you're angry about what I did that day, but you completely humiliated me that day. I didn't actually want to destroy you. If you'd just shown some humility, I couldn't have brought myself to hurt you. After all, we were together for so long. I cut him off bluntly. So long? 3 days counts as so long. Losing patience, I signaled my chief assistant to drag him away. 3 days, try 3 years, I said pointedly. The moment you threw that drink for someone else, you were already rotten to the core. Shi Jing instinctively shielded his face. You threw one back at me too, didn't you? I spat out 2 words with contempt. Not enough. I tilted my head slightly. Know your place, cut the nonsense. Want me to regret it? I'll see this through to the end. Now, get out. Immediately, the security guards escorted Shijing out, practically dragging him away. Turning back to my office, I dialed the legal department of Jian Group. I'm getting more and more confused by this plot. How did the supporting female lead suddenly fall out of love with the male lead? No lingering feelings at all. How heartless, truly living up to her role as the villainess. What's that supporting character up to now? What are you trying to do? Half an hour later, I hung up the phone. Glancing at the floating barrage comments, I let out a scornful chuckle. Call yourselves higher dimensional beings. Can't even grasp something this simple. I replied nonchalantly with a smile, just making some small preparations while waiting for him to come begging. 666. Starting your daydreams before sunset. Look. I know you can be a real pain sometimes, but seriously, don't mess with the male lead. He's got plot armor. If you just humble yourself a bit, make up with him, and help him reach the top, wouldn't you benefit too? Benefit? I pressed my fist to my mouth, as if I'd just heard the funniest joke. Benefits? The cake is only so big, I can eat it all myself, so why should I cut it for others and be at their mercy? Is he some kind of chosen one? I'll try being a chosen one myself. 7. A month later. Still in the top floor office of the Jian Group building, I arched an eyebrow at the disheveled Shijing across from me. He'd lost considerable weight, his posture no longer as ramrod straight. My eyes flicked to the barrage of comments. CEO Lin of Fengrui Group actually rejected the male lead's bidding proposal. The male lead has hit a wall 5 times in a row. Sigh, a wise man knows when to yield. I get why he's crawling back to the villainous now. That black card and her endorsement are just too valuable to pass up. I couldn't help but let out an unkind chuckle. You can't teach someone by just telling them. Experience teaches best. One lesson is enough. Does rebirth guarantee a head start? Money and power in this world spread like a virus, only transmitted through mother to child, sexual contact, and blood. You know it's profitable. You know it's a hot commodity. Why should it be you? You want to take on 2 of my Jiang family's projects. Stop daydreaming. After being politely or sarcastically turned away by various companies and facing repeated rejections, he finally came to his senses. Stripped of his former swaggering confidence, he wiped his face in humiliation as if making some resolute decision. Could you give me a small investment? I'll pay you back with interest, I said teasingly. Jiang Fushue, don't say I didn't warn you. I wouldn't take a penny from you. Think money makes you special. I didn't even want to come here in the first place. I repeated his bold declaration. Need me to say it again? Shijing gritted his teeth. I know you're angry. Just invest in me, and I'll take whatever you dish out. Hold it. I snapped his proposal shut with a sharp clap. What exactly is our relationship now? Shijing looked at me with complicated emotions. I'll be your obedient boyfriend. A smirk curled my lips. Then I snatched that proposal and hurled it straight at his face. Amid the fluttering papers, I sneered. Dream on, Shijing. We're just classmates. This pathetic proposal, I could write better blindfolded, and you expect me to invest in this garbage? I raised an eyebrow. Our flimsy schoolmate connection hardly warrants me handing you a life-changing sum just for your little whims. Shijing panicked, bending down to gather the scattered documents. Whether he was reassembling papers or salvaging his dignity remained unclear. His eyes darkened. Jiang Fushue, I admit I need you. Happy now. Stop being petty. I'm desperate for this money. I watched him pack up with cold eyes, offering a blunt assessment of his inexplicable confidence. You're just as despicable as your mother. The one who became a kept woman and then deluded herself into thinking she could climb the ranks by getting pregnant and forcing her way in. Shijing's hands froze. His hand slipped, and the document fell to the floor again. His shoulders trembled, and his eyes were red. You never used to be like this. How could you say such things to me? I said coolly. Are you stuck living in the past? Seems it's more than just the past. It's that distant previous life I cherished, when I basked in wealth and privilege. He glared at me, abandoning the scattered papers as he straightened up and stormed off. I'll make you respect me, Jiang Fushue. We'll see about that. Shijing staggered away, twirling my pen. A plan suddenly formed in my mind. He's really putting in the effort. I'm almost feeling bad for him. Let him make some final contributions. I summoned my chief secretary and whispered, trash belongs in the dump. Aren't there still some pieces of garbage on the board that my brother used to cozy up to? See if we can arrange them all at the same table. The willing bite the hook. The chief secretary caught my drift and shuddered. I casually dropped that line and turned to the barrage comments. They were scrolling at lightning speed. That's so insulting. Truly, utterly insulting. the male lead made a huge decision before coming to see you. He's such a proud person, do you know how much he sacrificed? Die, you wicked female antagonist. I intently enjoyed the barrage of insults aimed at me. Only after the chief secretary left did I grin. Are you mad? You've been annoyed with me for so long. Why haven't you punished me yet? Is it because you don't want to? The barrage of comments fell eerily silent for a moment. I savored the rare clear screen. Oh, so you can't. After I kicked Shi Jing out last time, I had someone put him on the blacklist. How dare he still waltz in and out of Jiang Corporation so freely and appear before me? Because I allowed it, obviously. I just wanted to see if these high-tech dimension bullet comments could actually do anything beyond empty talk. The results speak for themselves. Higher dimensional beings, I sneered openly, my voice sharp with contempt. Just a bunch of pathetic peeping toms. Stop pretending you're special. Seems you can't protect him, so tell me, can you even protect yourselves? My smile widened, bright with mock curiosity. How fascinating. The email icon blinked. From a day ago, Bai Hoen and I have made progress on our project. 8. Since that day, the barrage comments fell eerily silent, except for the occasional sporadic messages. What can lower dimensional beings possibly do to us? The protagonist got rejected, again. What the hell? This is so unsatisfying. I clicked expecting an overpowered protagonist, but instead I see him working morning shifts at a convenience store, cafeteria gigs at noon, and dishwashing at night. The protagonist seems to have such miserable luck, and his fortune stat keeps dropping. I don't know if Shi Jing is having a tough time. Anyway, I just poured another $1 million into the investment, lying on the king-size, custom-made mattress in my private dorm. I opened my email to check on the latest research progress and, while I was at it, took Bai Hoen's video call. He pushed up his glasses and smiled. Is the information clear enough? I couldn't help but go through it again, a genuine smile spreading across my face. Truly professional work. The progress has skyrocketed over these 2 months. This document thoroughly analyzes and presents possible origins of Danmaku with comprehensive evidence. Bai Hoen spoke calmly. Simply put, Danmaku can be understood as players from the 3-dimensional world observing the 2-dimensional realm. Through wave resonance, they achieve quantum projection of partial consciousness, with the resonance stability stemming from the delicate balance between underlying information entropy and spacetime curvature. Due to some anomaly, your brainwaves now resonate at the same frequency as the barrage comments, making them visible to you. We've developed methods to disrupt and even control this data stream. Don't overanalyze this, the author's just making stuff up. I nodded in understanding. That anomaly must be Shi Jing's reincarnation. Now I really don't know whether to call Shi Jing lucky or unlucky, I exclaimed. It looks like we can make a killing from this. I should even thank Shi Jing for this. Bai Hoen chuckled. Miss Jiang, you truly are a fascinating person. Hearing Bai Hoen's serious tone, I couldn't help but steal a couple more glances at him. The dappled light filtering through the sycamore leaves quietly accompanied him. Bai Hoen typed on his keyboard, his voice taking on an eerie tone, if it's possible. A cold glint flashed off his glasses. I'd love to dissect him and study him. My mouth twitched. Bai Hoen smiled faintly. Just kidding. I'm not some mad scientist. By the way, Ran told me you've been nominated for this year's national scholarship again. Yeah, congratulations. His tone was a little hesitant. Perhaps to celebrate your scholarship nomination and project progress, I could treat you to. The dorm door was pounding with urgent knocks. The force shook the entire doorframe. Something clearly couldn't wait. I motioned to Bai Hoen to hold that thought, hastily getting up to answer. I stared in astonishment at the figures before me. It was Su Yinwan and Shi Jing. 9. My eyes immediately locked onto Su Yinwan. Shi Jing trailed behind her, gaze averted like some awkward afterthought. Su Yinwan bit her lower lip, looking utterly pitiful. Jiang, I have something I need to talk to you about. Could I come in? My expression was odd. Come in. Su Yinwan got straight to the point. Dropping to her knees with a thud, she tugged at my sleeve, looking up at me. Jiang, could you please let me have the national scholarship? Su Yinwan was another nominee. With tearful eyes, she pleaded, I'm not competing with you for anything else, just this one thing. I want to study art abroad. And this is my only chance. I know you're wealthy, this money and honor mean nothing to you. Please don't fight me for this opportunity, just this once. Okay. Shi Jing tugged at Su Yinwan's sleeve, but she wouldn't budge. I lowered my head, cutting off Su Yinwan's wailing. In what capacity are you speaking to me right now? As someone asking for a favor, a classmate, or a poor soul who suffered a great injustice and is fighting against it? I pushed Su Yinwan away. It seems you neither see me as just another classmate, nor do you have the right attitude for someone asking for a favor, so why are you even here? Just to be a masochist? Isn't this the part where you cry and say, let's see who believes me now? Su Yinwan stumbled from the forceful shove, sobbing harder. She stole a glance at Shi Jing through tearful eyes. Jiang, I was wrong. I'm apologizing. It's my fault, but I was just so scared. You're wealthy, academically gifted. Everyone expects you to win the national scholarship. I desperately need that money. It's my only chance to chase my dreams. There's nothing wrong with pursuing your dreams, so, if you're not wrong, then I am. Her logic completely stumped me. I instinctively reached for the transcript lying on the table. National scholarships are based on this. Prove yourself with your grades. I'm not your mother. Why should I coddle you? Su Yinwan faltered, her eyes darting around. But you were born into the Jiang family. You have no idea what it's like for us who don't have money, how hard it is to get a chance to pursue our dreams and change our fate. I remained unmoved, shoving the transcript in her face, knowing she was in the wrong. Su Yinwan ignored me and instead turned to grab Shi Jing's arm. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, Brother Shi, say something. I know you're close with Jiang. Could you ask them to help me? Shi Jing looked pale and gaunt. His haggard appearance worsened by poor eating and sleeping habits. His gaze shifted between the distraught Su Yinwan and my radiant self before he suddenly turned away in visible anguish, refusing to meet my eyes. Su Yinwan's face turned deathly pale as she tugged pleadingly at his sleeve. Shi Jing finally turned back, his lips parting slightly. I sneered sarcastically. What? Expecting my respect? Shi Jing flushed crimson. Choking back his words, he hung his head and pulled Su Yinwan away. Let's go. I'll help you figure something out. There's always a way. We don't need to beg her. Something in those words struck a nerve with Su Yinwan. She snapped. She screamed, shoving Shi Jing away. Don't touch me. Do you even know the registration deadline is next month? Figure something out. That's all you ever say. Where do you get this confidence? Stop acting like you've lived some privileged life. It's easy to talk when you're not the one struggling. I can't believe I actually fell for your I'll be rich act. I've been eating instant noodles and working odd jobs with you every single day. I called you Brother Shi. We grew up together, and you wouldn't even say a word for me in front of her. What good are you anyway? Su Yinwan shot Shi Jing and me a venomous look. Seeing there was no chance of me agreeing, she quickly got up, pushed open the door, and ran out. The male lead claimed he took the female lead's savings for overseas studies for an investment, but his mom found out and spent it all. It's no wonder the female lead is devastated. Poor female lead. The male lead seems a bit unreliable, doesn't he? At the end of the day, it's all that supporting female character's fault. She deserves to die. If she'd just given the male lead the money, none of this would have happened. Watching this farce unfold, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. I told Shi Jing, turns out being a hero isn't easy. Screw up, and you're just a laughingstock. Don't get cocky just because you've had a lucky break, you little weasel. True, there are still visionary investors who recognized the male lead's potential and backed him during this period. The progress is just a bit slower, that's all. Just wait until the leads reconcile. It'll prove you completely wrong. Shi Jing looked utterly devastated. The once stately pine seemed to slump as he was about to speak. When Bai Howen's abrupt voice came through the still active video call, when two selfish people get together, it's no surprise what kind of mess they'll make. He kicked Shi Jing. Shi Jing's head snapped towards his phone, his face slowly contorted, as if he'd just had a sudden, profound realization. He seemed to have found a reason to convince himself. This reason eerily injected him with a vitality named jealousy and madness. Jiang Fuxue, so you have a new lover. Is it because of him that you don't like me as much anymore? Bai Howen, with his hands clasped and chin resting on them, smiled during the video call. What business is it of yours? Do you even deserve to be compared to me? I glanced at Shi Jing, not denying Bai Howen's little scheme, and with that, Shi Jing was promptly shown the door. Shi Jing panted like an ox, sputtering three furious fine s in succession. Fine, fine, fine. The door slammed shut with a bang. I flashed Bai Howen a knowing smile through the video call, playing dumb as I simply said, thanks, saved me from wasting breath on him. Bai Howen gave a slight nod, lowering his eyes in silence. A profound silence fell over everything. Only the rhythmic clatter of Bai Howen's keyboard remained. 10. After wrapping up my scholarship applications, I turned my full attention to the project I was developing with Bai Howen. Over the past 6 months, Shi Jing has become a somewhat notorious speculator. with many secretly suspecting he has significant capital backing him. Otherwise, how could he be so well informed? I just smiled and let Shi Jing do his thing. I heard that after he made his first fortune, Su Yinwan reconciled with him. Bai Yiran watched me hunched over my desk, preparing for the press conference on our latest developments, and couldn't resist taking a deep, satisfying slurp of her bubble tea. How's the press conference prep coming along? I put my work aside, joined her. And we took a short break, sharing a sip of bubble tea, feeling the full sweetness of the drink. I couldn't help but close my eyes in pure contentment. Everything went smoothly. Bai Yiran picked up her phone, opened the campus forum, pointed to a post, and asked me, "Then why don't you deal with this? Do you need my help?" I waved my hand, "No need. The higher you climb, the harder you fall." Bai Yiran looked at me and suddenly smiled. She said leisurely, "Not at all. Who said our Fuxue is heartless? In me the tiger sniffs the rose. You've always admired those who strive hard. It's not that the higher you climb, the harder you fall. You simply leave a glimmer of hope for those fighting to better themselves, don't you? Like how you recently doubled your investment in Jiang Family Scholarship at Q University." Our eyes met. Then I leaned back on the sofa, stretched out, and said coldly, "No, I'm just in a good mood, because this press conference will announce the results of the project Bai Hoen and I have been working on. We've achieved a breakthrough, allowing us to control the projection of barrages through a special frequency. I experimented on myself and successfully proved its feasibility. On the day I bid farewell to bullet comments, I flipped them off and drew an ant with a special frequency pattern as my parting gift. Those who see others as ants shall become ants themselves. How does it feel knowing your arrogance has brought boundless wealth to the very ants you despised? What can you possibly do to me, a bunch of clowns?" After throwing their words right back at them, I hit the block button without waiting for a response. Damn those bullet comments. You creepy lurkers can go talk to yourselves from now on. With the comment chaos handled, Bai Hoen and I immediately dove into researching how to apply this unique frequency for our purposes in new fields. I can already picture the flood of investment offers that'll come pouring in once we publish our findings. Absolutely thrilling. Compared to these achievements and investments, Shi Jing's little splash is hardly worth mentioning. This wonderful mood is simply delightful. It even made me unusually receptive to Shi Jing's invitation for once. 11. Shi Jing asked me out several times over the past 6 months, but I turned him down every time. I haven't seen him in a long time. He stared at me intently, his eyes growing more distorted, filled with the exhaustion of dealing with various power players. His hand trembled slightly. "You finally agreed to see me. Are you and that person still together?" I stirred my coffee. "What's eating at you? You're still the same. Always greeting me with these pointless, bitter remarks. Has reality been too harsh on you? Do you regret it?" Shi Jing suddenly clenched his fist. "Yes, and no, Jiang Fuxue. I'm saying this because we were together for 3 years. I have the means now, so please, break up with him." "Okay," I scoffed. 3 years, was that in a dream?" His expression froze. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him squirm with unspoken bitterness. Shi Jing said brokenly, "Jiang Fuxue, you can't bear to break up with him, can you? Your cruelty toward me, it's all because of that man, isn't it? I knew you couldn't be this heartless to me. You were supposed to be mine." I didn't mind his nonsensical replies. Instead of following his train of thought, I deliberately twisted the knife. "Yours? Then what about Su Yinwan?" He froze, then raised hopeful eyes burning with intensity. "She's just like a sister to me. I only wanted to protect her from your bullying." "There's nothing between us." I raised an eyebrow. "That's not what you said before, Fuxue." His eyes were red, like someone who had been working nonstop for some reason and finally couldn't take it anymore. "That's because I didn't want you to look down on me. We, the poor, are born inferior to you. I didn't want to always be beneath you. I wanted to have wealth and the same confidence as you. I admit, I got a bit fixated on that, but it's because I love you. And I want to stand beside you as your equal." I suddenly burst out laughing. "So those bullet comments said you lost everything in your past life too, just because you loved me?" Shi Jing's pupils constricted abruptly. Picking up my bag, I rose gracefully and patted his cheek with a condescending pity. "You never loved me. You loved my money, my power. Only when life slapped you hard enough did you remember my worth. Who knows what karma caught you last lifetime, but greed swallows the snake whole. And I've only ever needed a few methods to handle your kind. Care for an encore this lifetime, be it fresh grudges or old wounds." Terror flashed in Shi Jing's eyes before freezing into pure dread. Then came the rage. It ended with a complete breakdown. He stared at me blankly. You knew, Fu Shue. I never wanted it to come to this. You knew all along. You forced my hand. You left me no choice. Only by clipping your wings could I make you obey. Isn't that right? I couldn't fathom how his mind made that leap. Maybe I treated him really well in my past life. But that's all in the past now. I turned around. Go get your mental issues treated, a stunted NPD loser who can't even gaslight properly. I sighed. Giving you a chance is just a waste of my time. You want to clip my wings? Go ahead, try. 12. My press conference went ahead as scheduled. This will be a groundbreaking press conference. Brand new ways of socializing, groundbreaking ideas for holographic gaming, revolutionary information storage methods. This frequency has the power to bring boundless wealth and benefit human society. Those who attacked me ultimately became unwitting prophets, their words turning into the very bricks and mortar of my business empire. My net worth skyrocketed, and for a time, I was unrivaled, hailed as the most audacious and visionary investor and entrepreneur. The lights of the press conference flickered on amidst the long lenses and short snouts of reporters from all media outlets. Everything was ready. But just as I was about to step onto the stage, something unexpected happened. The reporters in the audience had varied expressions. The crowd was whispering. I immediately spotted Shi Jing and Su Yinwan in the audience. Bai Yiran stormed backstage, absolutely furious. I'm going to flay them alive. Fu Shui, I told you not to be so lenient with them. Look at this. I looked at her phone screen. That trending topic was rapidly climbing the charts. It originated from Q University's campus network, spiraled out of control, and went viral. The news about the Jiang family's youngest female CEO bullying a classmate caused quite a stir. My harsh words towards Su Yinwan and Shi Jing, in particular, sparked a heated debate among netizens. Wealth without virtue, dawn must break on this injustice. Are we ordinary people just meant to be humiliated? What I despise most are bullies. My younger brother developed depression because of school bullying. Those tormentors deserve to be drawn and quartered. Several senior Jiang Corporation directors banded together, launching an internal campaign against my continued tenure, citing confidentiality breaches. Several confidential Jiang Group plans known only to me have been leaked. They're accusing me of criminal conduct. Jiang Group stock prices have been fluctuating wildly in the red zone, showing signs of an impending crash. I gave Bai Yiran's hand a reassuring pat. In a panic, she created 5 alt accounts to rant under a post while scrambling to call contacts to take down the trending topic. I gave her a reassuring look. She gradually calmed down. Taking a deep breath, she said, "Right, I was so furious I forgot. You never go into battle unprepared." 13. Under the spotlight, I stepped onto the stage. Each step carried quiet confidence. The first microphone thrust forward came with blunt, cutting words. Mr. Jiang, regardless of what you're unveiling today or its potential benefits to humanity, integrity comes first, particularly when you wield technology capable of fabrication, technology that touches on human rights and privacy. Given recent events, how can the public trust you'll genuinely act as a socially responsible entrepreneur? Shi Jing and Su Yinwan, their baseball caps tilted up, flashed me challenging smirks. I laughed too, smiling with unshakable confidence. I reached out and turned off the screen. No comment. The facts speak for themselves. A cacophony of noise erupted. The faint glow of a pinhole camera illuminated the deserted corner. Jiang, we share the same birthday, yet everyone only remembers you because you're rich. Why is that? Sometimes I really envy you. So today, I'm giving you a big gift. Smack, smack, asterisk smack, smack, asterisk. The repeated, looping sound of self-inflicted slaps silenced all dissenting voices. All that echoed was the incessant slapping sound. I hit pause, and the screen froze on Su Yinwan's own hand landing on her face. I smiled. I think the difference between humans and monkeys is that humans use technology, like surveillance. So, Su, my dear classmate who's trying to expose me, are you really going to twist the truth when you don't even know that? No way. Brother sure said those private restaurants prioritize privacy. There's no surveillance at all. Su Yinwan's eyes widened in shock. She only realized she'd screamed when the sound escaped her lips. My face remained expressionless. Seems like Shi Jing didn't really know me in our past life either. I fought my way out of the Jiang family. How could I possibly leave no trace? I straightened the microphone in front of me, cleared my throat, and feigned shock, returning the jab. Are you talking about Shi Jing? I'm sorry, I'm just so shocked. How are you two so close? This is the very commercial spy I filed a request to investigate just a week ago. The moment the words left my mouth, the quiet press conference erupted like a drop of water hitting hot oil, instantly dissolving into chaos. The wailing of police sirens echoed throughout the venue. It all happened too fast. A well-trained legal team descended, bringing justice with them. Everyone was still reeling when a pair of silver handcuffs clicked onto Shi Jing and Su Yinwan's wrists. Charges include commercial espionage, illegal fundraising. The chief secretary distributed documents to every journalist present. President Jiang filed a police report a week ago. The individuals involved include several Jiang Group shareholders, with Shi Jing as the primary suspect. As for Ms. Su, her defamatory rumors and the dissemination of false information, exceeding 5,000 reposts, have caused severe damage to President Jiang and the Jiang Group's reputation. The police report was filed just an hour ago. Out of respect for their past school ties, President Jiang initially sought to avoid escalation, but given the gravity of the situation, he must prioritize accountability for Jiang Group's stock value. I chuckled softly, clapping my hands. Like a presumptuous frog seeing daylight, it mistakes the glow for mastery of the game. The hunter's true net had been cast far and wide since Shi Jing last came begging, an inescapable web woven long ago. Now we simply bide our time, waiting to extract maximum value from the prey. Tucking a stray lock behind my ear, I remain utterly composed. Every opportunity was given. The willing bite the hook. From barrage comments to Shi Jing, they've all served their purpose to the fullest. Now that everything's been put to good use, the trash should return to the dumpster. I leaned forward and cleared my throat more emphatically. Ladies and gentlemen, we're postponing the launch by half an hour. Let's save our cheers for the groundbreaking technology then, not waste time on these petty squabbles. I, Jiang Fuxue, am a doer. I don't use flowery language. I will genuinely lead with our cutting-edge technology and let time prove its worth. The audience fell silent once more, then erupted into thunderous applause. In that half hour, some were snapping photos, while others furiously scribbled notes for their articles. It seems Shi Jing and Su Yinwan are about to get their wish and become celebrities. Shi Jing struggled, seemingly bewildered by how things had suddenly come to this. Before he was dragged away, he strained to turn around, his eyes bloodshot like a dying beast, making one last desperate plea. Jiang Fu, his voice abruptly cut off. I raised a hand to my forehead, a faint smile playing on my lips, and mouthed silently. Who gave you permission to challenge me? In that instant, Shi Jing felt as if struck by lightning. He realized everything had been my carefully laid plan all along. All strength drained from his body, leaving only a whispered murmur. I could clearly read the shape of his lips. He said, Jiang Fuxue, you win, you put me back in prison again, I chuckled, my eyes filled with scorn and understanding. I replied, serves you right, so, was this how his last life ended too? You haven't made any progress at all. What I fear most is the insatiable greed of fools. What I dread most is the arrogance of the greedy. I dealt with them effortlessly, as if dismissing the most trivial, insignificant matters, and then told the reporters again, I'll see you in half an hour. In these 30 minutes, lives were turned upside down. But why should I care if they live or die? This game, I emerged victorious. I'm the real winner. 14. The product launch went smoothly. Bai Howen and Bai Yiran embraced me with the pre-ordered flowers. Bai Yiran wedged herself between me and Bai Howen, winked at me playfully, then slipped to stand beside me. Bai Howen and I were standing quite close. Su Yinwan stood before me, a beaming smile on her face, dressed in a similar, low-quality replica of the gown. One moment, he deliberated for a while, then finished what he'd started to say last time, Miss Jiang. Perhaps to celebrate the success of the launch and our boundless future profits, might I have the honor of taking you out for a meal? I held the flowers, took a deep breath of their fragrance, my eyes narrowing in pleasure, and straightforwardly cut to the chase. To be honest, you're not really my type. Bai Howen lowered his gaze, removing his glasses, but life holds infinite possibilities. I looked into his eyes, the same sharpness, certainty, and confidence mirrored my own. In the end, we had dinner together. But we're not together. In the end, I still couldn't decide whether or not to respond. After all, I really resonated with what Bai Howen said. Life is full of infinite possibilities, isn't it? Let the past fade away. No dwelling on toxic people or pointless drama. My path ahead holds uncharted territory waiting to unfold. Perhaps new faces will appear. Maybe an expansion of the business horizon. Perhaps it's my boundless ambition. brushing off the snows of yesteryear. The future holds so much more in store for me, step by arduous step. Story 2. Only after my genius ex-boyfriend passed away did I realize he had been suffering from severe depression all along. I received a letter covered in incomprehensible mathematical formulas and 4 words, for Meng Yao, returning to 4 years ago. This time it's my turn to find the solution to the problem and dedicate it to him. Preface. News broke that the youngest Fields Medal winner died from depression. The person in the photo had overlapping old and new scars on their wrist, staining the entire pool with blood. The report stated, "He has been suffering from severe depression for the past 4 years. I simply couldn't believe that such a heaven-favored prodigy could fall to such a state. I was so heartbroken that I fainted, dreaming of high school days in my half-asleep state." Yet another ultimate mathematical challenge was effortlessly solved by Lu Ye's pen, and I murmured in admiration, "Lu Ye. What kind of problem in this world would you consider difficult?" Lu Ye gazed ahead silently for 2 seconds. "Life," I teased him with a laugh. "God Lu, your Chinese failed there. Life is a noun, not a problem." At that time, I didn't understand what those 2 words truly meant to him. 4 years ago, that was the year we broke up. 1. I woke up to find myself lying on a classroom desk. Beside me, a pair of pale fingers held a pen, writing with fluid grace. I dazedly raised my gaze and saw a profile full of youthful handsomeness. "Lu Yi." The hand paused as he stopped writing and glanced sideways at me. Before my brain could fully wake up, I had already recklessly thrown myself forward to hug him. "Lu Yi, there are so many things I want to say, but I'm choked with tears." He froze for a few seconds before moving. I thought he was going to struggle, so I instinctively held him tighter. Then I felt a pair of hands gently patting my back, as if to comfort me. "What's wrong?" I froze for a moment, then cried even louder. Just as I wished I could crush Lu Yi into my embrace, a sudden cough exploded like thunder above my head. Ahem, ahem, ahem. My sobs immediately choked off as my body went rigid. Lu also noticed my stiffness, and the hand on my back changed to give 2 light pats. He explained calmly, "Class is starting." See, lass, is, starting. While I was still pondering the meaning of these words, another thunderclap suddenly sounded above my head. "Class started 10 minutes ago." The physics teacher's familiar yet unfamiliar gruff voice was right beside my ear. "You too, come with me to the office." 2. I stood in front of Teacher Gao's desk, tactically bowing in apology first. I'm sorry, teacher, I was wrong. I just had a nightmare." Teacher Gao looked rather speechless. All right. Stand properly and speak while looking up." I stood up, raised my head, and heard old Gao gasp in shock. "Ahem, well, how about this? You go home and rest today, and we'll talk about anything else tomorrow." I couldn't have asked for more. Grabbing Lu Yi, who was standing nearby, I said, "Thank you, teacher, goodbye then." Before I could turn around, I saw old Gao glaring at my hand with wide eyes. Guiltily, I withdrew my hand from Lu Yi's grasp, let out an awkward laugh, and pushed him out the door. On our way back to the classroom, before I could speak, Lu Yi suddenly stopped in his tracks. "Wait here for me." I was puzzled and looked at him in confusion. His gaze swept across my face. "Your eyes are swollen." Remembering how my eyes puff up like walnut shells whenever I cry, I quickly covered them with my hands. Through the gaps between my fingers, I saw Lu Yi enter the men's restroom nearby, emerging moments later with a neatly folded handkerchief in his hand. He handed me the dampened, cool handkerchief. "This will feel more comfortable if you apply it." I took the handkerchief and thanked him, then heard him say, "I'll go get your school bag for you." I stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly at his retreating figure as my eyes grew moist again. Lu Yi, who's always so gentle, why on earth would someone like him suffer from depression? 3. I spent the whole night researching, trying to understand what depression feels like: oppression, loss of interest, insomnia, helplessness, despair. Every description I read stabs at my heart, yet in my eyes, none of these seemed to have anything to do with Lu Yi. Since entering school, Lu Yi had always been out of sync with everyone else. He began participating in national and international math competitions at age 6, never once defeated, and had been known as a child prodigy since childhood. By his first year of high school, he had already received invitations from top universities like Stanford and Princeton, frequently attending academic conferences we couldn't even begin to understand. He carries too many halos, isolating everyone around him. As everyone at school describes, Lu Yi is like an exiled immortal untouched by worldly affairs, hence the nickname God Lu. The only reason I have any connection with this deity is because I was fortunate enough to be his deskmate since freshman year. I had a crush on him, but only mustered the courage to actually speak to him in the second semester of freshman year. Even after getting together with him, I could only talk to him more. We never even held hands. If I had to describe our relationship in one word, it would be platonic. The only time either of us overstepped boundaries was during the breakup. I've always looked up to him, so I never knew. When I rushed into his arms crying in class, it turned out he would hold me instead of pushing me away. 4. The next day at school, my eyes were even more swollen. Old Gao was startled. "You little girl, don't tell me you're heartbroken." My dad and Old Gao were high school classmates, so we're quite close in private. "Stop teasing me. I'm not dating anyone. How could I be heartbroken?" Old Gao burst into laughter. "It's adolescence. Teachers understand, especially since Lu is so outstanding." My heart skipped a beat as Old Gao suddenly changed the subject. "But, main girl, did you know Lu Yi has already been accepted early by Princeton?" Of course I knew. In my past life, Lu Yi went to Princeton for college. As for me, no matter how hard I tried, I only got into a top domestic university, worlds apart from Princeton. So, main girl, if you really start dating early, you're in for some hard times. I walked out of Old Gao's office clenching my fists. Damn it, Old Gao actually thought I had a secret crush and hinted that this relationship wouldn't work out. Little did he know, following last life's timeline, I'd be together with Lu Yi in just 2 months. Right now, I'm indeed not together with Lu Yi yet, but that's just a matter of time. I curved my lips and returned to the classroom, lying on the desk staring blankly at the empty seat beside me. Lu Yi doesn't need to take the college entrance exam, and can often skip school. Sigh. Such are the privileges of genius. During the second class break, just as I was regretting forgetting to ask Lu Yi for his contact information yesterday, my best friend came knocking. "Yao Yao." Yuan Wan darted in front of me, leaning down without bothering to lower her voice. "Yao Yao, I heard you forcibly hugged God Lu." My eyes widened in shock as I immediately raised my hand to cover her mouth, never expecting her to grab my wrist instead. "Don't get worked up, don't get worked up." I desperately signaled her with my eyes. "Don't talk nonsense, Yuan Wan." That idiot, completely misunderstood. She leaned close to my ear and asked excitedly, "Did you confess to God Lu?" I met Lu Yeqing's clear gaze behind Yuan Wan. "Quick question, would sacrificing my best friend work in this situation?" 5. I wonder if Lu heard it or not. I pretended nothing had happened and greeted him, but he just nodded indifferently, as if he wasn't the one who had taken me home yesterday. Many times in the past, I was intimidated by his coldness like this, but this time, when it came to the afternoon PE class, I pulled him towards the small grove behind the sports field. "Lu Yi, I have something to tell you." On the way, I remembered the day in my past life when Lu Yi and I confirmed our relationship. That evening during class self-study, I was just turning to ask Lu Yi for help with a difficult math problem, just as Lu Yi turned his head and leaned close to me. The entire teaching building suddenly lost power. The whole class fell silent for a moment, then erupted into chaotic uproar, with many people excitedly pounding their desks and shouting. The desk behind me knocked against my chair, making me stagger sideways, only to be steadied by Lu Yi. In the darkness, I lifted my head, and my lips brushed against his cheek. The hand supporting my arm stiffened slightly, and amidst the surrounding clamor, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. As if possessed, I said, "Lu Yi, let's be together." Only after speaking did I realize what I had just said. Flushing crimson, I tried to pull away and cover it with a joke, but Lu Yi held me firmly in place. He said, "Okay, I don't know when Lu Yi started liking me, but I know I couldn't forget about him for the next 4 years. Once you've liked Lu Yi, you can never like anyone else again." I stopped under a big tree in a deserted corner and turned to ask him, "Did you hear Yuan Wan's last words?" Lu Yi nodded. If what she said was true, would you agree?" Lu Yi looked at me and remained silent for a moment, then spoke in a very solemn tone. "I will." I suddenly let out a sigh of relief and smiled. "Lu Yi, let's be together." 6. After he recovered, my eyes inexplicably welled up with tears again. "Lu Yi, I had a nightmare last night." Remembering the image of him lying cold in the bathtub in my past life, I couldn't help but hold his hand to draw warmth. I dreamed that a very close friend of mine was seriously ill but didn't tell me, and left on their own. In a voice almost pleading, I asked cautiously, "Lu Yi, if you ever get sick in the future, you must tell me." "Okay." Lu Yi paused for a moment, but answered without hesitation, "Okay, I wanted to relax and smile, but the corners of my lips trembled instead. Cold. He was about to take off his school jacket when I raised my hand to stop him. I shook my head. Not cold. But my eyes hurt a little. Could you blow on them for me? I tilted my head up toward him, eyes open and smiling as I waited for him to act. Lu Yi blinked, behaving uncharacteristically obedient. The moment he slightly lowered his head, I stood on tiptoe and pressed a kiss to his lips, our first kiss across 2 lifetimes, brief as a touch, gone in an instant. See, this is a girlfriend's privilege. Watching Lu Ye's dazed expression, I felt quite pleased, just as I was about to pull away. Lu Yi suddenly lifted his eyelids and wrapped his arm around my waist. Seen up close, his eyes were more dazzling than the cosmic galaxy. Power is mutual. After speaking, he lowered his head and gave me an awkward yet deep kiss. 7. I noticed that Lu Yi at this time seemed somewhat different from the Lu Yi I knew later. In our past life together, Lu Yi had almost never taken the initiative between us. Many times, I would speak at length without getting any response from him, only to look up and find him staring blankly into space. After staring at him in frustration for a while, he would finally snap out of it, and I'd ask him, "Were you thinking about math problems again just now?" Then Lu would sincerely say to me, "Meng Yao, I'm sorry, I was with him for 4 months, and the phrase he said to me most often was, Meng Yao, I'm sorry." At that time, I didn't know about the existence of depression. I truly felt he had wronged me. He clearly promised to be with me, yet he would spend entire days lost in his own world, not even glancing at me. When I had a cold and fever, even the teacher could see how miserable I was, yet he remained immersed in mathematics. When I was sad about my declining grades, he wasn't at school but shining brightly at some mathematics academic forum. Even on my 18th birthday, after reminding him multiple times daily for half a month, he still stood me up on the day. It's just that I'm not the type to demand or make a scene. I tried to swallow all my grievances, never expecting it would only leave me with a lump in my throat, but the current Lu Yi would care about my swollen eyes from crying, would ask if I'm cold, would kiss me, even if he couldn't do these things. I'm now firm enough not to mind at all, yet I'm still so grateful that I came 2 months earlier. Perhaps his depression was still relatively mild at this time, maybe in a safe period of depression, or perhaps he hadn't developed depression yet. Yet I couldn't help but realize, something must have happened to Lu Yi during these 2 months. 8. I began to pay close attention to Lu Ye's daily condition. What struck me most profoundly was undoubtedly the watch on his left wrist. I remember clearly in the photo, beneath that very watch, lay terrifyingly dense scars. Seizing the moment when Lu Yi paused his writing, I boldly grabbed his left hand and fixed my gaze on that watch. Upon closer inspection, I realized something was off about this watch. This isn't a watch you can buy on the market. It looks more like it was handmade. Its movement is completely occupied by 5 gears of varying sizes, while the remaining gaps on the dial are filled with densely packed spike-like fragments of unknown material. There doesn't seem to be anything particularly special about it, yet it gives me an extremely uncomfortable feeling, making my chest feel heavy just by looking at it. I examined it carefully and pretended to ask Lu Yi out of curiosity, "Lu Yi, where did you buy this watch? It's so unique." "My mom's." I froze. "Your mom?" "Yeah, she's a mechanical engineer, so it was made by his mother." I breathed a sigh of relief, but new questions arose. I heard Lu also came from a single-parent family. His mother was an elite woman who not only raised him but also had the means to buy an apartment in an upscale neighborhood and fund his overseas education. I saw her at a parent-teacher meeting. She had stylish, elegant wavy hair and features so delicate she looked like a refined lady from a Republican-era painting. But in his previous life, when Lu Yi committed suicide, all his personal connections were exposed. Even Lao Gao received media interview requests, yet among all this related information, there was no mention of his mother. I suppressed my emotions. "That aunt is really impressive. I've never seen a handcrafted watch before. I'd love to try it on. May I?" Lu Yi lowered his gaze to look at the watch, then said quietly, "My mom won't let me take it off." My heart clenched. He didn't want me to see what was hidden beneath this watch. 9. I knew exactly what this meant, but could only deflect with a laugh. "Alright." I decided to take a risk. "Lu Yi, can I come to your place for tutoring this weekend? Teach me math." "Okay." I thought Lu Yi would refuse, but after a moment of consideration, he agreed. "Alright." Actually, I already knew Lu Yi's contact information and home address, but to avoid raising his suspicion, I asked for them again. I even put on a fierce act. First rule of dating: You must reply to your girlfriend's messages and calls, got it, okay. Also, you shouldn't hide things from your girlfriend, tell her everything first, okay, whatever I said. Lu would always agree, he's so well behaved, it makes my heart itch. I glanced around the noisy classroom during break and crooked my finger at him. Come here. Lu also leaned in with confusion, and I cupped my hands over my mouth, moving closer to his ear. I gave his ear a little peck. Boyfriend, this is your reward. Seeing Lu's ears instantly flush red, I contentedly lay back down on the table. At that time, I almost drowned in the sweetness of love, optimistically thinking that misfortune could be erased in advance. Until Saturday, I went to the psychiatric department of the hospital to consult a doctor about depression, and coincidentally saw Lu coming out of the neighboring department. I stood still for a long time. And only after Lu's figure completely disappeared from sight did I muster the courage to walk to the entrance of the department he had just exited. I looked up and saw the doctor's profile on the wall. Specializes in schizophrenia, depression, anxiety disorders. My heart instantly sank to the bottom. 10. In the afternoon, I went to Lu's house. He was still wearing the same casual clothes he had on when going to the hospital this morning. Lu, what were you doing all morning? As I observed Lu's home, I casually asked him. Lu bent down to help me put on slippers. Using other proofs to solve the Poincare conjecture, I tightened my fingers around the backpack strap. Have you been at home all this time? Lu paused before replying. Yeah. My heart was shrouded in gloom, but remembering the doctor's words this morning about how some depression patients exhibit social withdrawal, I mustered up some courage for myself. Lu, were all these robots made by your mom? Lu's home had the rare gray-blue color scheme, simply decorated, with many metal robots of varying sizes and shapes placed in the living room. Lu also went to the kitchen to pour me water. Yeah, she's at work today. I walked up to a robot that was as tall as a vase, its head covered with a cardboard shell on the back. Curious, I tilted its head, and a blood-red clown-like grinning face suddenly came into view. Terrified, my face turned pale. Before Lu came out, I quickly restored the robot to its original state and stepped back to keep my distance. When I looked up again at the circle of robot figurines in the living room, I suddenly felt an eerie and horrifying sensation. Let's go, we're heading to the study. Suppressing my palpitations, I followed Lu into the study. There was nothing strange in the study, but as I pulled my chair close to sit beside Lu, I still felt an indescribable unease. That bloody smiling face and Lu kept alternating in my mind. Distracted, I had barely put down a few strokes when Lu grasped the back of my hand. He frowned slightly, looking at me with concern. What's wrong? I could only lie. I had another nightmare last night. Lu stared at me for a few seconds. Just when I thought he had seen through my lie, he suddenly raised his hand to cradle the back of my head, pulling me slightly closer. Then placed a soothing light kiss at the corner of my lips. Feeling better now. 11. In that instant, I was utterly convinced that nothing couldn't be healed. I beamed and nodded emphatically. The study time passed swiftly. When the sun set behind the mountains, my mom called me home for dinner. I packed my things. Lu, what are you having for dinner? He hesitated uncharacteristically when answering. There should still be dumplings in the fridge, I asked, puzzled. Isn't your mom coming back to cook? No, she's not coming back today. Being a single mom must be tough, and seeing Lu grow up in such circumstances makes my heart ache for him even more. Suddenly, I made a big decision. Lu, come to my place for dinner. I want you to see my home too. Lu froze. Is that okay? Of course, I said without hesitation, taking his hand. My parents are very hospitable. More than hospitable, they were practically excessively hospitable. I just brought Lu inside and introduced him with one line. This is my deskmate, Lu, Comrade Xiaoyang. This looks obsessed fellow, quickly wiped away his drool and promptly dragged Lu to the dining table. Oh my, you must be Xiao Lu. Come, Auntie just happened to make some delicious food. Comrade Lao Meng initially maintained a stern demeanor, but after seeing Comrade Xiaoyang and Lu chatting back and forth, he couldn't resist butting in with some gossip. Are you that genius mathematician mentioned in the newspaper? Lu replied in a very measured and unusually restrained manner. I dare not presume. Comrade Lao Meng waved his hand and piled a large portion of pork onto his plate. Good lad, eat more, eat more. At the table for 4, I became the extra one, clutching my untouched bowl in confusion. I accidentally met Lu's gaze peering through the vegetable dishes. For 2 lifetimes, this was the first time I saw Lu smile. The feeling in that moment was, I'm willing to share my parents with him. 12. Doctors say that people with depression usually experience significant low mood. I've noticed that Lu Ye's mood seems normal recently, but I still dare not let my guard down. I became alert when Lu started skipping school frequently. I messaged him occasionally every day, and though he didn't always reply promptly, he would eventually respond with explanations. But after he didn't show up for a whole week, I started to feel panicked. I deliberately sent him a WeChat message at 3 a.m. I declare that mathematics is the enemy of my life, /angry, attached a picture of a complex math problem without much thought. I waited anxiously for 2 minutes, and unsurprisingly yet unexpectedly, Lu Ye's reply came. He sent a picture showing 3 different solutions to that math problem, each written neatly and in detail. I couldn't spare a glance. Lu Ye, why aren't you asleep yet, doing problems? My hands began to tremble. Do you have insomnia? Yeah, my heart was pounding wildly, and it took me a long time to calm down before I could type, then let me coax you to sleep, okay, but before I could send it, I received another new message from Lu Yi. Even before seeing it, I somehow had a premonition. My gaze moved upward, seeing that sentence, Meng Yao, I'm sorry, 13, like a spell that opened Pandora's box. I was caught off guard by the misfortune that came my way. In a fluster, I made a voice call, trying to steady my voice. Lu Yi, why are you saying sorry to me? After a long silence, Lu Ye's weary voice came through. I don't know. As if subconsciously, he added another sentence. I'm sorry, I bit my lip. Lu Yi, there's no need to apologize. Insomnia is completely normal. Look at me today. I couldn't sleep either because of math problems. I tried to keep my tone light, but my words came out all jumbled. Insomnia is like a cold. When you're sick, you can always get better. I realized something, paused, and asked aloud, Lu Yi, have you been taking medication? Both insomnia and hypersomnia are common symptoms of depression. I remembered seeing Lu Yi at the hospital that day. Yeah, I suddenly calmed down. Then does listening to me talk make you uncomfortable? How about I keep you company and chat with you? Okay. I just held my phone and lay on the bed, starting to chatter away. Do you remember that idiot Yuan Wan? I told her the other day that I'm your girlfriend, and she didn't believe me, even said I was daydreaming. Lu Yi, next time let's show off our love in front of her and make her eat her words. Okay. These past few days, my parents keep mentioning little Lu at home, saying a good cabbage got ruined by a pig. You wouldn't believe it, they actually said I'm the pig. Lu Yi, do you know why my parents don't object to me dating early? Without waiting for Lu Ye's reply, I continued on my own, because my dad and mom started dating early too. Haha, I heard that when my dad pursued my mom in senior year, it caused her grades to drop. Comrade Lao Meng still has to kneel on the washboard for that even now. Ha ha ha, I laughed heartily, yet tears had already silently soaked the pillow. I sniffled and said with a grin, Comrade Xiao Lu, come to my place for dinner in a couple of days. Alright. Lu Yi remained silent for a moment before replying, alright. I wiped my tears and continued to chatter cheerfully about other things, even laughing twice when getting excited. I don't know how long I'd been talking, but my eyelids grew heavier and my voice fainter. Lu Yi hadn't made a sound for a long time. Thinking he'd fallen asleep, I could barely hold on either, beginning to drift off. In the end, I kept mumbling the same thing over and over. Lu Yi, it'll be okay, I'm here, it'll be okay. Before completely sinking into the chaotic haze, I faintly heard a sigh. He said, Meng Yao, don't cry, I can't kiss you. 14. I dreamed of the first day of high school when I first met Lu Yi. That day, Comrade Lao Meng insisted on driving me to school, but the navigation messed up and made me late. I heard the opening ceremony sounds from the playground and rushed to find my classroom to drop off my backpack first. Just as I ran to the classroom door, I collided head-on with a wall of flesh that nearly sent me flying. But fortunately that person caught me by the waist. I'm sorry, I stammered out apologies in a fluster, then looked up to see Lu Ye's breathtakingly handsome face. Later I rushed to the playground and saw him giving a speech as the freshman representative. Only then did I learn that his name was Lu Yi. Standing on the stage in formal attire, he appeared handsome and radiant, with striking features. While I remained hidden in the crowd, my heart skipped a beat. 90% of the girls in the entire school had a crush on Lu Yi. The crowd of girls trying to squeeze to our classroom door just to catch a glimpse of Lu Yi grew so large that they had to form a line, eventually forcing the school to send teachers to shoo them away. Taking advantage of the proximity, one girl from our class confessed her feelings to Lu Yi on the third day. At that moment, I was sitting right beside Lu Yi, watching as that girl handed him a love letter. Lu Yi politely expressed his thanks, but instead of accepting the love letter, he handed the girl a piece of paper in return. He said, "If you can prove it." All the girls in the school were in an uproar. Solving the problem on it would mean being with Lu Yi. A wave of math problem solving swept through the campus, until someone looked it up on Baidu and everyone realized belatedly, that problem has a name. It's called the Riemann hypothesis. No girl dared to approach Lu Yi anymore. I quietly tucked away the white paper with the copied problem, sealing it inside my math textbook, then secretly swore eternal enmity with mathematics. 15. Woke up with a start from the dream. After hastily packing up, I asked the teacher for leave and took a taxi straight to Lu Yi's home. After hesitating at the door for a long time, I still couldn't rest easy and finally rang the doorbell. When the door opened and I saw Lu Yi standing there unharmed, I couldn't help but throw myself into his arms. "Good morning, Lu Yi." Lu Yi clearly didn't expect my sudden appearance, but he still returned my embrace. "Meng Yao." His voice sounded so weary. When I pulled away and saw the dark circles under his eyes, my heart ached. "Let me stay with you." "Okay." Lu Yi never refused any of my requests. He stepped aside and pulled me into the room. The air conditioning was on indoors, and I noticed he was wearing a turtleneck sweater. The combination felt somewhat incongruous to me. I placed the breakfast I brought on the dining table. My mom makes really delicious pumpkin porridge. Just as I finished setting the breakfast table with light movements, sudden footsteps came from the doorway, followed by the sound of a key turning in the lock. I froze, looking at Lu Yi. Lu grabbed my wrist, his voice deep. "Meng Yao, my mom is back." Before I could understand the gravity of his expression, he urgently pulled me and shoved me into his bedroom. "Wait here." Before closing the door, he said, "Don't open it." I stood dazedly behind the door, hearing the click-clack of high heels outside that suddenly stopped at a certain point. Muffled, fragmented speech began intermittently, and I only caught one clear sentence: "Why don't you just die?" Then came strange, indistinct metallic clanging sounds, accompanied by the noise of something heavy being dropped. Unable to obey, I instinctively swung the door wide open. First, I saw a slender figure standing by the dining table, seemingly twisting some wire in hand, and kneeling shirtless before her was Lu Yi. He knelt on the hard marble floor, head hanging like a lifeless puppet, his hair drenched in sticky fluid. It was that bowl of pumpkin porridge. My breath hitched, my foot barely making a tiny movement. Lu Yi suddenly raised his head and looked at me. He was looking at me, with a look I could never forget in my lifetime, yet dare not recall for the rest of my days. He was begging me not to go out, begging me not to look. 16. With all my strength, I slowly closed the door, covering my mouth. I slid down against the wall, tilting my head back to hold back tears. Through the door, I heard the muffled sound of metal striking flesh, and the hate-filled words, "It's all your fault, it's all your fault." At that moment, I truly hated myself. I hated my helplessness, hated my understanding of Lu Yi, hated my past life. That was the longest and most painful time of my life, and the thought that this might just be an ordinary fragment of Lu Yi's decade-long life made me feel even more pained, until who knows how much later, when Lu Yi crouched in front of me, it still felt somewhat unreal. My vision was too blurred to see his face clearly, yet I could still somehow perceive his heartache. He was aching for me. "Meng Yao, I'm sorry." He gently wiped away my tears with his fingertips. "I didn't know she would come back today." I grasped his fingers, hastily wiping my tears to examine his body. There were no scars on his face, water droplets clung to his hair, and he had changed into a black shirt, clearly having cleaned up. I noticed his collar was awkwardly and unpleasantly raised high, and as I realized something, a sudden chill ran through my entire body. With trembling hands, I reached for his collar, my voice choked with tears. "Lu Yi." This time, it was Lu Yi who grasped my fingers. He sighed. "Not good looking." I stared at him without speaking. Lu Yi reluctantly let go of his hand. When I saw the red marks on the fair skin, my hand trembled uncontrollably, yet I stubbornly examined that fresh scar over and over, along with the two older-looking rings beneath it that appeared recent. I finally understood. Lu Yi always wore high-necked sweaters when others were still in thin shirts, not because he feared the cold. Holding my breath, I lifted the hem of his shirt again. What I couldn't see clearly from a distance before, the crisscrossing scars covering Lu Yi's body, now lay exposed before my eyes. I couldn't even bear to touch the wound with my hand, afraid it would hurt him. Why would his own mother? I choked up. "Lu Yi, does it hurt?" Lu Yi smiled at me. If you feel the pain for me, then I won't feel it anymore. 17. This is by far the longest speech Lu Yi has ever said to me. He told me about his mother. His father was abusive, and his mother left home with him when he was 1 year old. For a single mother, making a living in an unfamiliar city was as difficult as climbing to the sky. She survived by scavenging through trash piles during the day, teaching herself mechanical engineering from scrap metal. Life was hard. But his mother would rather go days without food or water just to give him a birthday with a cake. Exhausted as she was, she still took him to the park near their home every evening, never letting other children bully him. When he was 8 years old, perhaps because of a heavy rain, or maybe just a sneeze, his mother suddenly flew into a rage, accusing him of being the reason she became like this, blaming and resenting him. The next day when sober, she cried and begged for his forgiveness. Later, this cycle of resentment, scolding, and apologies repeated several times, escalating to beatings followed by apologies, until eventually she would experience memory loss and couldn't recall what she had done. Anxiety, mania, mild schizophrenia, selective amnesia. Meng Yao, she's just sick. Lu Yi comforted me with the words I once said to him, just like a cold, it can be cured. She hadn't had a relapse for a long time before this. I couldn't speak, opening my mouth several times. Does she know now? Once you wake up, you'll forget. Are you keeping it from her? She won't be able to handle it. What about you? I asked. Lu Yi, what will you do then? I can handle it. How can you handle it? Don't you realize you're sick yourself? She'll drag you into the abyss sooner or later. How I wish I could blurt it out without a care. But I can't. The doctor said if a depressed person still talks to others about their problems, it means the situation is somewhat optimistic. But I can't feel happy about it at all. I held Lu Yi's hand. Lu Yi, she needs to go to the hospital. I'd been arranging doctors for her. No, she needs to go herself. She's too proud to accept this. That year, 17-year-old me didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I said to him, Lu Yi, let's give it a try. After a long contemplation, Lu Yi chose to place immense trust in me. Alright, let's try. For many years afterward, whenever I recalled this conversation, I couldn't fall asleep. I've carried the guilt of those words for a lifetime. 18. Lu Yi's mother was admitted to the hospital on a day in early November. On the day she was taken to the hospital, I hid under a tree outside watching Lu Yi talk with her. She wasn't wearing makeup, her bare face pure and innocent like the most harmless angel, and I was utterly captivated, bathed in the early autumn morning sunlight. She suddenly turned her head in my direction and gave me a gentle yet breathtaking smile. How strange. I found I couldn't bring myself to dislike her anymore. Lu Yi began shuttling between the hospital and school every day, saying his mother's condition was improving day by day, so both Lu Yi and I firmly believe that she will soon recover and be discharged from the hospital. Meanwhile, Lu Yi's condition has been improving day by day, with his depression gradually shifting from moderate to mild. Now having minimal impact on him, Lu Yi said he doesn't plan to go abroad until his mother recovers, and he'll attend university domestically first. So my goal is to get into that top-tier domestic university he's aiming for. I studied like crazy, squeezing in time to date Lu Yi. On the night the teaching building lost power, I secretly kissed his cheek in the darkness. When the lights came back on, it felt like I could see countless bright lamps illuminating our future. Squinting my eyes, I asked a question I'd always wanted to ask. Lu Yi, why do you like me? Lu Yi was momentarily stunned, then raised his pen to draw a coordinate axis on the paper. He dotted many irregular black points in the blank space, then drew a diagonal line through the middle. I was puzzled. A univariate linear regression equation. Lu Yi nodded, pointing at those scattered black dots. This is my existence. He pointed at that line again. This is your significance. Actually, I didn't understand, but it didn't stop me from giggling and immediately bragging to Yuan Wan. Yuan Wan looked at me like I was an idiot, who knew even geniuses could be so cheesy with their sweet talk. I huffed proudly. You just don't understand Lu Yi's romantic side. Not only did Yuan Wan laugh at me, but old Meng and comrade Xiaoyang also joined in mocking me. I often studied until dawn, and they'd joke that I was risking my life for romance. My parents may appear tolerant and open-minded, but I know perfectly well if my relationship ever interfered with my studies, no matter how wonderful Lu Yi was, they'd never approve again. Only by letting them see me improving will they believe this is a healthy relationship. Back then, I was full of confidence in myself and Lu Yi, completely forgetting that when Pandora closed the box, she left hope inside. 19. In the March of spring, only 101 days remain until the college entrance examination. The day before the anniversary of my breakup with Louis in my past life, I sent him my usual morning greeting as always. At first, I didn't mind not receiving his reply, thinking he was too busy visiting his mother at the hospital, when he didn't come to school in the afternoon. I called him in confusion. Several unanswered calls made me start to worry, but it was my grandmother's birthday that day, and our family had agreed to gather at her place after I finished school in the evening. Undeniably, prolonged peace had dulled my alertness. I didn't go looking for Louis right away. That night at 10 o'clock after returning from Grandma's house, as I watched those unanswered messages pile up one by one, I felt a terrifying palpitation. I waited until there was no movement outside and my parents had gone to rest before sneaking out of the house. Just as I tiptoed past the living room, my hand not yet on the doorknob, a deep voice suddenly came from behind. "It's so late, where are you going?" My heart stopped, and I turned around. The living room was unlit. Old Mang stood by the glass door connecting the balcony, the cigarette in his hand emitting a faint crimson glow. Old Mang usually fooled around at home, but when it came to matters of principle, he was more serious than anyone. Even through the darkness, I could sense the authority and solemnity emanating from him. "I know lying is useless, so I can only selectively conceal the truth. I'm going to find Louis." I clenched the hem of my clothes. "Haven't been able to reach him all day. I'm a bit worried." Old Mang's tone was uncharacteristically cold. "Then call the police. Finding people is the police's job. Not something for you to worry about by going out at midnight." Old Mang knew me well. He could tell I was hiding something. Just as I knew him, I understood exactly how he would react upon learning the truth. He wouldn't accept it. I pleaded, "Dad, when I was 18 and pursuing your mother, I never let her go out alone at night, He stubbed out his cigarette and walked toward me, "Without a reason. You're not stepping through this door, I have no other choice. Lou also has depression." I was shamefully close to tears again. "Dad, I'm sorry, but I have to go find him." I turned the doorknob, trying to make a quick escape, but he still grabbed my arm. We stood in silent confrontation for a few seconds before Old Mang released his grip. "Put on your coat, I'll go with you. Dad has a car." 20, halfway through the drive, it started to rain. It began as a drizzling rain that gradually intensified, culminating in the roar of thunder. I remembered breaking up with Louis in my previous life. It was on a rainy day just like this. We had made plans to have dinner together after school, but that day I waited from sunset until the moon hung high in the sky, yet Louis never showed up. This wasn't the first time Louis had stood me up, but the spring rain that day was unusually heavy, the night wind exceptionally cold, and for some reason, I felt particularly wronged. Louis's indifference, broken promises, and calmness kept replaying in my mind. I walked home in the rain and developed a high fever that night. I texted Louis to break up. Not receiving his reply left me utterly disappointed, further solidifying my resolve to break up with him. Louis never showed up at school again after that, and I couldn't help but feel worried and suspicious. But one day a month later, he suddenly came to school and said those words, "I'm sorry," to me again. I noticed he didn't look well, and my heart ached for a moment. Only to hear his next words, "But I won't break up." His words were unusually domineering, and I couldn't understand how he could be so self-righteous. I said angrily, "Louis, this isn't up to you." Louis gripped my wrist tightly, his eyes rimmed red. He said, "Meng Yao, I will die." At that time, I failed to recognize it as his cry for help. I stared at him in shock, equating him with those obsessive freaks who threatened to die after a breakup. How could you be this kind of person? As I grew older, I regretted ever harboring such doubts about Louis, but what's done is done, and I don't think Louis, who was already renowned back then, would need an apology from me. By that time, I had become even more unworthy of him. I had only ever seen Louis's glorious side, never realizing he was trapped in dire straits and had once seen me as his lifeline, and I, before he plunged into the abyss of eternal damnation, gave him one final push, not finding anyone at Louis's home. We drove to the hospital where his mother was. As we passed the park at the neighborhood entrance, a feeling came over me, and I got out of the car. Through the hazy curtain of rain, I saw Louis curled up in the space beneath the slide, like an unwanted child. I ran up to him, my trembling hands unsure where to place themselves. Louis raised his head, his eyes hollow and empty. His voice remained as calm and faint as ever, but mingled with the sound of rain, it seemed fragmented and desolate. He said, "Meng Yao, I don't have a mother anymore." 21. Lou was also taken home. given the medicine prescribed by the doctor, and fell into a deep sleep. It was already the early hours of the morning. During the night, he began to run a high fever intermittently, murmuring unconsciously, "It's all my fault, it's all my fault." My heart ached unbearably. Consumed by guilt I couldn't escape. I stayed awake all night watching. Lu Ye's fever broke but he showed no signs of waking. Old Meng kept vigil outside the room all night, and at dawn he bought breakfast and came to call me. I sat across from him in a daze, faintly aware of what he was about to say. "I've asked for leave on your behalf." I froze, not expecting this opening line. "Today's your 100-day pledge rally for the college entrance exam." "That old Gao is really stubborn. It took me quite some talking to get your leave approved." Sipping his porridge, he said calmly, "Kid, let's hear it. What are your plans?" I thought he would scold me. And I also thought he would make me break up with Lu Yi. I just didn't expect him to throw the initiative to me. I swallowed hard, my voice hoarse. "I want to stay with him." For how long?" "Until he gets better." He looked up at me. "Even if it takes months, or years?" I met his gaze without flinching, or perhaps indefinitely. Old Meng's pupils contracted slightly. He averted his eyes and let out a light chuckle. "So what are your plans for the college entrance exam? Are you giving up on it?" At that time, I was actually just one step away from China's top universities, just needed to stretch a little further to reach it. With a pale face, I said, "I can study at home. I can study while he's asleep, but the doctor just mentioned the risk of suicide. Asking us to strengthen supervision and raise awareness, preferably providing 24-hour monitoring. Do you know what that means?" I silently lowered my head, then raised it again after a few seconds. "I can take a leave of absence from school, or I can repeat a year." Old Meng's eyes turned cold. I was afraid, but I spoke with absolute determination. "But I cannot give up on Lu Yi." Old Meng's voice also turned cold. "Then what do you expect your mother and me to do? How dare you assume we'd allow you to make such an absurd decision?" I hung my head in shame again. "Dad, I'm sorry. Please have some pity for Lu Yi. I'm your father, not his. You will be eventually." Old Meng laughed in frustration, got up from the dining table, and paced back and forth a few steps. "You're not sober right now. We'll talk when you're clear-headed." Old Meng made as if to leave, but I called out to stop him. "Dad, I'm completely sober now. I once asked you if you regretted pursuing Mom back then, causing her to miss getting into a top school. You said Mom might have regretted it, but you never did, though it may be shameful. There are always certain people or things in life that you would unwaveringly choose when faced with a decision. Dad, I'm sorry. Lu Yi is my unwavering choice." Old Meng paused behind the door back then. I don't know what he was thinking. He said, "If this is your decision, then I understand." 22. I'm fortunate to have such open-minded and rational parents. Since childhood, they never imposed any ideology or choices on me, but instead showed me respect in every way. I know how unfilial this is, but I saw Lu Yi staring blankly out the window, not saying a word, like a walking corpse. I've lost Lu Yi once before. I can't lose him again. I patted his head and called out to him. For half an hour, he showed no response. I stepped away for a moment to get some food. But he suddenly grabbed my hand again. It was a very light touch. I stopped and asked softly, "What's wrong?" Lu Ye's gaze was unfocused. I asked again, "Do you want me to stay with you?" He didn't speak, but I just sat down beside him and never left again. I kept chattering to him about some funny things, and as I talked, Lu Yi fell asleep again. He began to become lethargic, vomiting after eating, and spent each day in a daze without speaking. On the third day, when I went out to pour hot water and returned, I found Lu Yi was unexpectedly not in bed. He sat at the study desk, holding a pen with his head bowed over a blank sheet of paper. For a moment I thought he had recovered, so I approached. "Lu Yi." Lu Yi looked up at me, his face blank with confusion. After several days, the first words he spoke to me were, "I think I've forgotten how to do math." The second sentence is, "I might be sick." The third sentence is, "Meng Yao, do you still want me?" 23. I held Lu Yi, telling him over and over how much I needed him. He took his medicine and fell asleep again. I got a call from Lao Gao, who told me how spectacular the scene was on the 100 Days Pledge Day. He told me to take good care of myself and return to school soon. My parents haven't informed the school about my leave of absence yet, and I couldn't bring myself to say it either. They didn't pressure me, as if they had already accepted it, but deep down I don't want to give up either. While Lu Yi was asleep, I crouched in the living room studying on my own, thinking this way I could balance both. I had another nightmare about Lu Ye's suicide from my past life. After waking up in panic, I rushed into the room but couldn't find Lu Yi. Breaking into a cold sweat, I barged into the bathroom and saw him lying in the bathtub. This scene is too cruel. I cried and called his name over and over. He also cried, murmuring repeatedly, I should just die, I should die, my heart is broken. 24. Since then, I haven't dared to leave Lu Yi's side for a single step. I gathered all potentially harmful items in the house and locked them in other rooms. I sleep by Lu Yi's bedside, needing to watch him fall asleep first before daring to close my eyes. If it weren't for my mom bringing us meals, sometimes I wouldn't even have time to eat. I'm so exhausted, but I can't let Lu Yi sense any of my negative emotions, even with my parents. I put on a brave face in front of them, pretending I'm fine. I feel deeply depressed, but I've never thought of giving up. I used to think Lu Yi was someone who couldn't be measured by common standards. He possesses the most clear-headed and rational mind in the world, with terrifying emotional self-control. How incredibly strong must his willpower be, to remain virtuous for over a decade while his mother was ill, and even complete what's considered one of history's greatest mathematical researches while battling severe depression for 4 years. In the battle against depression, it was mostly him saving himself. My presence didn't seem that important, but that sudden storm made me suddenly realize my significance to Lu Yi. During the 100-day pledge ceremony before the college entrance exam in my past life, Teacher Gao had the whole class write their thoughts on slips of paper, put them in message bottles, and hand them to him, saying we could come claim them years later. What I wrote back then was, the road is long, the journey far. Though my heart yearns, no distance bars. Back then, I was still desperately trying to catch up with Lu Yi's footsteps. This year I missed the 100-day pledge ceremony, so I found a small glass bottle at Lu Yi's place and wrote a note myself. I wrote, Mingyao is Lu Yi's homecoming. After writing it, I put it in the glass bottle and boasted to the sleeping Lu Yi, Lu Yi, I understand your confession now. I fell asleep leaning on his bedside, and in my drowsiness, I felt someone touching my face, so precious, so gentle. 25. A week later, something incredible happened. Lu Yi regained consciousness. He would get up to eat breakfast, take his medicine, and even say thank you to me. I held him close, nuzzling his face. Lu Yi. It'll get better. When Lu got slightly better, I felt like I came back to life too. 2 days later in the afternoon, Comrade Xiaoyang came to deliver food, and I happily shared with her. Shortly after, she received a call. What? Mom fell and was hospitalized. I stood there stunned, watching her hang up and rush off in a panic. Did something happen to Grandma? I was so worried I didn't know what to do. When Lu suddenly appeared behind me, for the first time, he took the initiative to ask me, what's wrong? I pulled myself together, and no, it's nothing, let's eat. Lu Yi raised his hand to cup my face, pulling me close before his eyes. Mingyao, I'll get better. He pressed his forehead against mine, his gaze seemingly regaining its vitality once more. Believe me, alright, I believe. How could I not believe? I said joyfully. I believe. I trust Lu Yi the most. Lu Yi planted a kiss on the corner of my lips. 26. In the evening, old Meng suddenly came by. Your grandmother was asking about you at the hospital. Don't you plan to visit her? Mom told me not to go this afternoon, but I've actually been worried about it the whole time. It's just, Lu must be asleep by now. I'll keep an eye on things. You go and come back quickly. I looked at Lu Yi's peaceful sleeping face and hesitated for a moment. Alright, Grandma is also my family. I can't help but worry. Besides, I have complete trust in old Meng. I didn't expect that when I rushed to the hospital, there was no one there at all. I called my mom, and she stammered, Yao Yao, I'm sorry. A chill ran down my spine as I turned and ran back to Lu Yi's house. Lu Yi was gone. Old Meng sat in the living room smoking, watching coldly as I frantically searched the house like a madman. Only when I had searched enough, lost hope, and collapsed helplessly on the ground, did he finally speak. He's gone. I looked at him with reddened eyes. To Princeton. I couldn't believe it, my voice hoarse with accusation. Dad, you're committing murder. The moment the words left my mouth, seeing old Meng's suddenly frosty expression, I immediately regretted it. He even helped handle the funeral arrangements for Lu Yi's mother. After all his indulgence towards me, how could I say such things to my own father? Completely flustered, I buried my face and sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm just so worried about Lu Yi. They'll find him the best psychologists in the world. For a genius like him, there are many people who'd want to save his life. Old Meng squatted in front of me and patted my head. Yao Yao, this was his own decision. 27. The powerlessness of adolescence seems to be just like this. you have boundless courage, fearless of dangers, but none of it can compare to a plane ticket in reality, old Meng said. As long as I can get admitted, he would spend his last penny to send me to Princeton. To get into a top domestic university and secure an exchange spot at Princeton, you'd at least need to be a junior or senior, 3 or 4 years. Lu Yi, can you wait that long? Lu Yi asked me to trust him. I don't know where he gets his confidence from. I don't even believe in myself. That fool. What if I don't pass the exam? I used all the time I used to spend with Lu Yi to study, determined not to give any room for wild thoughts. On the day the college entrance exam ended, I thought I could pass. But I couldn't feel happy about it. Yuan Wan dragged me to the graduation party and told me to invite Lu Yi out. None of them knew what Lu Yi was going through. They only thought he was still shining brightly somewhere not far away. I felt inexplicably sad. In this lifetime's graduation ceremony, Lu Yi was still missing from the photo. Starting over, I changed nothing. I fell into deep self-doubt and guilt, dreaming either of Lu Yi or his mother every day. In fact, I've always believed that I was responsible for Lu Yi's mother's death. I feel like I'm on the verge of depression. I lost my appetite, spoke less and less, until a few days later when old Meng suggested taking me out to relax. I'm not really interested, but I don't want him to worry. The car stopped in front of the embassy, and I hadn't even realized it yet. Old Meng pulled me out of the car. Go, get your visa. I stared at him blankly, not understanding. Old Meng looked disdainful, pathetic. To be in such a state after just a few days. He pulled out a plane ticket. It was for New York. I'll buy this one for you in this lifetime. The next ticket, you earn it yourself. After saying it, he immediately regretted it. No, your father is poor. This money will have to be deducted from Lu Yi's future bride price. Old Meng muttered to himself. My eyes reddened as I threw myself into his arms. How fortunate I am to have the best father in the world. 28. The plane landed in New York, and Lu Yi's personal doctor's assistant came to pick me up. His name is Robert, and he tried to communicate with me in broken Mandarin. Hello, I'm here to act as a scarf driver for the doctor's main force assistant. At this moment, I can only feel grateful that I studied English well in college. The drive from New York to Princeton takes just over an hour. Perhaps it's the anxiety of nearing home. The closer we got, the more restless I felt. Even missing several responses to Robert's words, he smiled and said, Patrick is doing fine, don't worry. He seems different from other patients. He attempted suicide once, but called for help at the last moment, which is very rare among depression patients. Maybe it's because he's a genius. You know, geniuses are always special. Lu Yi is no genius, he's just a big idiot. He left me without saying anything, making me travel thousands of miles just to find him. I could hardly resist the urge to scold him or even hit him, but seeing him standing dazed in the yard, all my anger melted away. I rushed over, braking at the last second, and reached out to cover his eyes from behind. I said in English, guess who? He froze, and after a long pause, replied hoarsely, Meng Yao. That's not right. Lu Yi gripped the back of my hand, his fingers trembling. Meng Yao, helpless, I asked in Chinese. Who is Meng Yao? It seemed like this was the only word he knew, yet he stubbornly repeated, Meng Yao. I released my grip and stepped in front of him, only then noticing his bloodshot eyes. Remember this, Meng Yao is your future wife. I grabbed his collar and said fiercely, if you dare die again, I'll become a widow. 29. Princeton started spreading legends about me. They say there's a Chinese girl who chased her love across oceans, all the way to Princeton. Doctors and nurses in the hospital kept pestering me for gossip every day. Unable to bear the harassment, I finally said, Lu Yi owes my father a plane ticket, so my father sent me to demand a bride price from Lu Yi. Well, the legend then became my father's, but when these words reached Lu Yi's ears, he immediately took them seriously. He handed me his bank card and asked naively, is this enough? My mind was full of question marks as I saw all those zeros in his digital account. I was shocked. How do you have so much money? Won some awards from a few projects, plus payments for decrypting codes for the military. I never used this money. I never expected my boyfriend to be this wealthy. Enough for what? Lu Yi tilted his head as he looked at me. To marry you. My face turned bright red, and it took me a long while to find my voice. Lu Yi, I'm not even of legal age yet. He said seriously, then let's make a reservation. His depression was gradually improving, but he needed to stay at Princeton for research. While my domestic admission notice had long been issued, on the day I was returning to China, Lu Yi insisted on forcing his card into my hand. It's hard to refuse such kindness, so I accepted it. While packing my luggage, I accidentally found a small glass bottle in Lu Yi's bedside drawer. Very similar to the one I once used to slip a note into at his place. Curiously, I opened it and saw my own handwriting on it. Meng Yao is Lu Yi's homeward path. Beneath this line, there was Lu Yi's elegant and refined handwriting, which read, "If life has an answer, she is the only solution." Extra Story 1 Lu Yi's Love Letter. 3 years later, Lu Yi, the youngest Fields Medal winner, gave an interview. Mr. Liu, I heard your previous research focus was always on the Poincare conjecture. Why did you suddenly switch to the Riemann hypothesis 3 years ago? A reminiscent expression appeared on Lu Yi's face. Because of a love letter, he smiled. This is my love letter to my beloved. The media all thought Lu Yi also had a lover who was equally a genius mathematician. Even I was starting to believe it. I interrogated Lu Yi. Which lover did you send that love letter to? Why didn't I know about it? Lu Yi mentioned that when a girl confessed to him in their first year of high school, he had thrown the Riemann hypothesis problem at her. During my stay at his place, one day he noticed a piece of paper falling out of my math book, with a date written on it. Yeah, it was the date I vowed to wage war against mathematics. I rushed to Lu Yi's bedside table to search, and sure enough, found that piece of paper. Beside me, a pair of pale fingers held a pen, writing with fluid grace. 6 also. / dedicated to Meng Yao. / extra chapter 2 Old Meng and Little Lu. In senior year of high school, Lu Yi had just regained clarity from endless exhaustion. Meng Yao lay by his bedside, exhausted and asleep. He stared at her, lost in thought. When Old Meng entered, leaning against the door, he took a drag of his cigarette. Princeton's medical care should be decent, right? He looked at Lu Yi and said, I'm just giving you a heads up, before graduating from university. Meng Yao struggled with whether to take the domestic postgraduate entrance exam or strive to go to Princeton to accompany Lu Yi. At the dinner table, Old Meng said she had already spent her junior year on exchange at Princeton, and since she would eventually have to go abroad to accompany Lu Yi anyway, it would be better to stay in the country for a couple more years. Meng Yao thought it made sense and was about to agree when Lu Yi suddenly grasped her hand. Princeton has a good environment. Especially in healthcare. Haven't you been having frequent headaches lately? Old Meng across the dining table glared with fierce eyes. Lu Yi turned his head and smiled gently at him. Just a heads up, Dad.